This is loud and clear. Perfect. So we can get started now. So first thing first is, yesterday we completed this activity network diagram. And that's when we talked about few elements, which is critical path, critical activities, what is total float, what is free float. So basically, we talked about these elements. We should be clear about what these elements are when we talk about developing an activity network diagram, which is going to help us to understand the how long a particular task or particular activity will take. We can use this critical path. Well, so the critical path is the one which is the longest path in the project, and that will decide the project duration. So all activities on the critical path are called critical activities, all activities. So where every activity on the critical path will be critical one. And yes, if with that any of those activities gets delayed, your project will get delayed. Forward pass is when you do, like when you start from beginning, go till the end, that's forward pass. While doing forward pass, we always take the maximum value. And then you do a reverse calculation, which is about backward pass, where you subtract the values. And that's when you get to see the lowest value, you take it. And the subtraction, when you do it from to find the difference here, that you call as float. Well, technically, you call it as total float. You call it as slack. You call it as buffer. What do you call this? These are all the same thing. So this is the extra time that we have. And how do you get it? The late start minus early start, late finish minus early finish. Do whatever you want. You will have your total float calculated here. Now, all in all, whenever we talk about the free float is more from a perspective of if you delay an activity, how long can you delay an activity without delaying the start of next activity? That's what we call as free float. So conceptually, we should keep in mind, bottom line, you will be using some tools. Well, you may be using a Microsoft project, a Jira, Primavera, or whatever you want. Bottom line, every tool will work on the same fundamental. So that's why you always keep saying, well, it doesn't matter which tool do you know. If you know one of them, you know all of them. So you may see a different brand, different like a color combination, but it's all about this. So we'll be going and doing that, Maha. Yes, we'll be doing that. So all in all, yesterday we talked about that presentation part. We completed it, but there was one question which was left over, like question in the end. So like you may try to go and check that out. Well, let's go and try and solve that before we pick up the new elements here. Let's see a quick one. Let's go back here and let's pick up the 245. Not here, I guess. Structural material. So it's right here. The last slide we had. We discussed about this element, which is one question which is not solved yet. And let's try to see what does this maths tell us how to deal with this. So while we have to start first. So with the early start will always be a 0 and early start will always be a 0. We're starting like nothing before that. So 0 plus 4 will result in 4 because that's going to take, that activity will take 4 days. And this will take 5 days. So basically, like I'm going to start, there's nothing before this. So I know this task will take 4 days. This task will take 5 days. So early finish will by default be 4 and 5. The early finish will become early start for next, which is 4 here. And this also activity is also originating from this one. This will also become a 4 here. This is going to this activity. This will become 5 here. Like early finish will become early start. Now I see, like let's do 4 plus 4 is 8. 8th day, and this is 7, 4, 11. We've got 11 here. Now, since we are talking about 8, let's kind of keep asking this question. So can we tell like what will be the early start I should be using here? Early start. It should be 11. Absolutely. We'll be picking it up. The highest value. Thank you. I guess we got some answer key here already. Well, that will be 11. We take the highest value. Now 11 plus 3 is 14, which we have got here. And 5 plus 5 will be 10. Now we've got 14 merging on this and like 10 merging on this. What should we pick up here? 14. Perfect. Yes, absolutely. 14 plus 10 is 24. Well, that means it will end on. So maximum duration for this entire process will take about 24 days. Now I will do reverse calculation. 24 comes here. 24 minus 10 is 14. 14 will go here. 14 will come here. Now 14 minus 3 is 17. 14 minus 5 will be 9. So typically, like 9 will come here. Now here, 17 will come here. 11, not 7. Let's see. I'm not sure if I've made a mistake. Please correct me. 14 minus 3. Oh, my bad. My bad. 14 minus 3 is 11. You were right about that. That's 11. So let's make it 11 here. Now, 11 minus 4 is 7. And similarly, 11 will come here also. 11 minus 7 is 4 here. Well, what will we pick up here? 7 or 4? Perfect. We'll pick up 4. The lowest value. Let's kind of go back and check this out. We got, so 9 minus 5 is 4. And here we've got 4 minus 4 is 0. Well, good job. Let's kind of, we have done with it. Let's kind of look at this. So float, we'll try to find the buffer activities. Buffer, this is 0. This is a critical activity. Let's kind of change the color for that for now. Let's change this to red. So this is 0, which is buffer, like critical activity. 7 minus 4 is 3. So there is a 3 days of total float here. 4 minus 4 is 0. That's a critical activity. And then we have 11 minus 11. That's a critical activity. 14 minus 14. That's a critical activity. 4 minus 0 is 4 days of buffer here. And 9 minus 5 is 4 days of buffer here. So practically, first of all, if you try to plan the critical path, my critical path will be this, followed by this, followed by this, and followed by this. That's my critical path. So it'll be A, followed by D, followed by C, followed by G. That's my critical path. So the duration is going to be A is 4 days, plus D is 7 days, plus C is 3 days, plus 10 days for G. So 7, 4, 11, 11, 4, 11, 3, 14, 14 plus 10 is 24. And that's my critical path and longest duration in the project. That defines my duration here. And yes, when I'm looking at this activity, all these are critical activities. So these are like I have got critical activities known, critical path known. I know which activities have buffer. Let's kind of look at the buffer and see whether there is a free float or not. Is there a free float here? Is there a free float? If it is, then how much? 3 days? Perfect, yes. So there's a free float of 3 days. I can delay this activity for 3 days. And if it gets delayed, this start will not change. So yes, 3 days of free float. Let's see, do we have a free float here? Do we have a free float here? Okay, based on what? Well, we don't have a free float here. We don't have a free float because if it gets delayed by 1 day, it will change the start of next activity. There's no free float here. How about, do we have a free float here? Yes, we have a 4 days of free float here. You have 4 days of free float in this case. Yes, because it can be delayed for 4 days and still it will not change the start. So we have 2 activities. We have got 4 days of free float here. We got 3 days of free float here. I guess somebody had a question here. I was just, while we were talking about the chart, on what basis you calculated the date? I didn't get the question. Like Basma, which date are we talking about? Are we talking about the time? Okay, are you referring to the time, the duration, 4 days, 4 days? Is it what you're referring to, Basma? I will be explaining the free float from 0 to 4. This one, the time, the duration, right? Okay. So we started from 0, 0 plus 4 days is 4 days. This will be estimated. Remember, this has been given here, but in real world project, well, you will be required to estimate the activity before you develop the schedule. I'll explain the free float once again. We'll talk about free float, but again, these durations are estimated. Remember, we first identify the activities, we sequence the activities, we estimate the duration, and we already know the method of estimating duration: analogous method, parametric method, 3-point method, bottoms-up estimation. So all those, whichever estimation methods we might have used, that's how we know the duration. Is that clear? The duration part, we would have estimated. Now we're trying to plot that and find out the time. Now the question of what is a free float here? Wherever we have got float, we will try to see if you delay that activity, will there be a like a free float available. Like, so practically when I look at this activity, this is ending on 8th today. I can delay this activity by 3 more days and it will still not change the start of next activity. The next activity is supposed to start on 11th day. So even if I delay this activity by 3 more days, the start will not change. So I've got 3 days of free float. Here, this activity is ending on 4 days. I have buffer of 4 days, but like this is ending on 5th day. But if I delay this activity even by 1 day, will it change the start of next activity? Yes. And that's why we don't have a free float here. We do have a total float, but we don't have a free float because even if I delay this activity by 1 day, it will change this to 6 days. So you don't have a free float, but here you have a free float because it's ending on 10th. Even if I delay it by 4 more days, it will still be fine. So you have 4 days of free float. I hope it's okay and clear with everyone that the free float is the amount of time that you can delay an activity without changing the start of the next activity. So you may have a total float, but you may not have a free float. It's absolutely possible. So this is pretty much just a quick recap. I would highly still recommend you have got both the, like you have got the one which is solved answer. You've got this one also we have discussed. I would highly recommend at least practice this out so that any question related to this, you might be given a chart like this, and they would ask you to calculate total float or the free float for an activity. Please let's just so that you, if you know under this much, you'll be fine. You will not have to think twice about kind of solving that question. It'll be easy. So please do practice that. You have got like one is solved, one we just solved right now. It will be fine. It'll be easy. It's not a big deal, but just practice at least once yourself. All in all, doesn't matter. While you kind of use any template, any kind of software, well, you will always see the start date and end date. You will see that like a date in a certain sequence. Whatever tool you're using, you will be able to see that. You can set the milestones in the chart. Whatever chart you're using, milestones are important events in that entire schedule. So if there is some activity where there's some important update supposed to happen, you can note it. And in these softwares, whenever you see milestone, they will be denoted with this diamond. This diamond sort of symbol will show in the template in whatever software. This diamond symbol is representative of some important milestone. So we'll see a milestone chart. So milestones will be represented by these diamond symbols. So I can have I can present this through activity network diagram. On top of it, I can put milestones also. Wherever there are important stages, I can always like denote those milestones also. Well, you have this, you can help you to ensure on-time completion of project. Pretty much logical. That is why we are creating this entire chart to make sure it's completed on time. It helps you to track the scheduling. And why because in the end, you need SPI, Schedule Performance Index. Because if you don't have this chart, where would you know how much time is buffer? We will require those calculations to be done. So SPI will require some sort of tool to work for you to understand like this is the plan. But when you execute, things will be a little different. And then you will be adjusting it. So your SPI will get calculated. So, well, you need some sort of mod, like template, some sort of, probably if it's a very simple one, people can do it on Excel, but highly not recommended. You will ideally end up taking up any of these project management tools, which will do all these calculations on its own. But again, you have to, and from examination perspective, from PMP exam perspective, is it mandatory? Like, do you that you have to go and learn these tools also? The answer is no. But as a project manager, well, I would highly recommend learn at least one of them. It doesn't matter what you learn because you learn by default. You learn one, you know everything else. So once you're done with the PMP certification and all, then I would highly recommend, because if you're going to use these things in a practical world, because exam is not going to be about testing about you about doing things, because it believes that you already are project managers, you're already using these tools, so they're not testing you on the knowledge of the tools. But again, as a project manager, they believe that you would already have knowledge of this. So pick up one. It'll be good things to learn, not required for examination perspective as such, that knowledge. But again, basic information you should know, because having this information, what we discussed, will be required to even study the charts in the tools. Whenever you use those tools, you will be able to study the charts well. If you know what is the backward pass, what is forward pass, what is free float, total float, you've got to understand. Without that, again, it doesn't matter what tool you use if you don't understand what these are. So again, They're just a way of presentation, but again, you'll require some of these tools, and the presentation can be done in different ways. I can create a roadmap. I can create a Gantt chart. I can create a milestone chart, or I can do a activity network diagram. Mr. Samir, I will any given day talk about Microsoft project, the old is gold kind of thing. So the oldest one, the Microsoft project, is still like I would say it's my favorite, but doesn't matter. Honestly, you pick up anything, they're all the same. It's just a different label. So whichever is cost effective, go for that. But again, people have because the everything is going to work with the same logic: backward pass, forward pass, the free float, total float. So concept is going to be same, but again, presentation and all that stuff is different. Companies will sort of charge you more. Well, just see what is more comfortable. So pick up anything. So these are different ways, and let's see the sample of it. Let's see. This is what we call as Gantt chart. So Gantt chart will represent the activities, the tasks you have got, and the timelines are here represented in terms of bars. These are the bars. And look at this. This is a milestone. Well, we talk about this is a milestone. Important event, something important happening there. So you can represent those milestones also with this diamond shifting. So barring that, the entire Gantt chart is all about these bars. The bars that you see here, that will be representing the task activity. This is ending here. This is starting here. Like these are all finished to start, finish, start, finish, start, finish. So right now what we're seeing, it's all finished to start right here. But all in all, this will be done by your tool. Whatever tool you're using, it will be taken care of it. No, Kanban will not. Kanban will not. Kanban is not a project like it's not a scheduling tool. Kanban is not. Kanban is more for visual signaling tool. This is for scheduling part. This is a milestone chart. Right here, we are tracking the milestone. So, well, it's the same thing. Instead of bar, now you have these lines. That's all. So instead of a bar, you are seeing the lines, but what it's connecting is milestone 1, milestone 2, milestone 3. So important stages, and you are sort of depicting it by these lines. So while it's just a different presentation, you can see this version, that version. So your data is there. You can choose to see it differently. Well, if you want to see it in a bar, you look at the Gantt chart. If you want to see this with the milestones reflected, you can just use a milestone chart, or for that matter, forget about everything else. Well, go ahead and have a look at your activity network diagram that we created. You can see this activity network diagram also. So same data, you can, these are just tools. Whatever data you fit in, like you add there, it can be used to present it differently. So they are like, you can, it's your choice how you want to do it and which one is more comfortable for you. All are same. Practically, there's nothing more in there in terms of whatever data you have a different way of presenting A type, B type, C type. You can present it differently. It's okay. It's your tool. You can keep changing the view differently. It's okay. So there's nothing good or bad. It's all about the different versions available, how you can present your data. Now, while we prepare this entire activities, we would be assigned, we would go and assign resources for those activities. And during the project, you will have a resource constraint. Okay, I guess Jeju has a question. No, bottom line, you plan, but again, then you keep working as per the, when you have a planned activity, then you, as and when you keep working on it, so the daily work that you can perform will be showing, and you will see the adjustments, variations happening according to it. So you don't have to have a plan versus actual separately. The tool will help you kind of get that job done to see the variance. So you will be feeding it, and then the actuals will kind of show parallelly against them. So whatever your tool using, that will take care of it. And that's how you get to see the variance and all those done. You don't have to do it separately. It will take care of it. Now, this one is, we have to, again, quickly, this one we have to understand by keeping a couple of topic, like basic concepts in mind, like one word sort of indication. What do you mean by smoothing? What do you mean by leveling? Conceptually, like we should know by simply looking at like when somebody says we are going with smoothing or we are going with leveling, what does that mean? Let's see. First thing first, smoothing. We're taking a scenario here, and we'll take two different scenarios to talk about. So there's a task which is being performed, and this is, say, task A. And this task is my task B, which is aligned this way. And the resource which is working, say there's somebody who's some skilled resource, that the skills required to perform this task is same as the skills required to perform this task. and we only have one resource. So one resource who starts the work here will continue to work here, but at this stage, now there will be problem. Well, this guy can't be working like 24 hours a day because this guy is now expected to work both on A and B. Well, so this is keeping in mind, you have resource like a constraint. Even if you want, you can't get resources. You have got extra money, but you don't have resources available. Even if you want, you have tried to ask your procurement team. They say, sorry, we don't have resources available right now. We can't get it right now. So bottom line, we are keeping in mind, there is no way you are able to get a resource. And your resource has been over-optimized because you can't have the same guy do like a 8-hour shift and one for then 8-hour shift to the second one. It's not possible. So now there is a problem we'll get into. So this is, while we're talking about this, please keep this in mind. You don't have bandwidth to get extra resource. Money is not a problem, but you don't have resource. Probably availability is a challenge. So you will not have resource. And that's what we're talking about. What do we do then? And we have only one resource who is working on both the tasks. So either you do A or B. So smoothing only works if one of these tasks is like a non-critical activity. So if this hypothetically, this task A is a critical activity and task B has float, like the total float or free float. It has total float or free float, or vice versa. Like you could have task A has free float. It doesn't matter. So one of these tasks, either this has a free float or this has a free float. If one of those tasks has a free float or total float, I know for sure logically I can't delay the critical activity, because if critical activity gets delayed, my project will get delayed. So I will utilize that free float and extend this because I can extend the task by those many days because I have that extra time. Even if I delay that activity by those many days, my project will not get impacted. So there is no way I can compromise on the task A. I'll say, okay, we have say probably this is like a 5 days task and this is like till 3 days. This is 2 days of overlap. So what we will do is we'll say, okay, let's delay the task B by 2 more days, and it starts here because we have only one resource. So we will delay this. Why we are able to delay? Because we have free float or total float available. So we can delay this activity. So this smoothing will ensure that your project does not get impacted. The project timeline doesn't get impacted. So your critical path doesn't change. Your project will still get finished on the same timeline. But again, this may not always be true. Well, why? Because you may not have the bandwidth, like you may not have luxury of having one of the activities critical. So, here we're keeping in mind, this is only going to be possible if one of those activity is not a critical activity and you have buffer available. So you can utilize that buffer and delay the activity which is buffer. So let's finish the one which is critical and then finish the one which is non-critical. So smoothing will work in that case only. You put a manpower to a critical. So we'll put I will have that resource do the job and finish A. Once A is done, because this is critical, I can't delay it. Once A is done, then I can start B. So I will start B with 2 days of delay. Why I can do that? Because there's a buffer available here. I can delay. So I delayed it. Logically, that makes sense because one is critical, another is not. So I will be able to use smoothing here. But now think about a scenario. This task A is also critical activity and task B is also a critical activity. Now, well, you don't have a choice of smoothing. So smoothing only works when you have one of those activities non-critical. So you can utilize the buffer to delay it. So but delaying the task will still not delay the project timeline. Why? Because you're still doing your critical activity on time. And because that's what is the project duration, the actual activities which do not have a zero buffer, which do not have the float. So if those activities get delayed, your project will get delayed. But again, you were able to utilize the free. So it did not change your project timeline. Now you may get into a situation like this where you have only one resource who can do this job, and both are critical. Now, bottom line, you don't have a choice. So you have to delay the project. Yes, project will get delayed. Well, you can't desire everything. So now you got a level. Bottom line, we have understood there is no way I can do it. This is critical, and you want to get a resource, you can't get resource. The resource is not available in the market. Do whatever you want, you call it. But the bottom line, you're working with resource constraint. The resource is not available. So only one person is supposed to do both of them. This is critical, this is critical. Okay, let A finish and then we'll start B. So my project, well, if this is 2 days, that means my project will get delayed by 2 days. My critical path will get changed. So if this entire chain was supposed to finish in 20 days. Now this will finish in 22 days. Why? Because there was a over allocation and we had constraint of resources. So we had to push one of the critical activity. So project duration got extended by 2 extra days. Here the critical path will change, not in case of smoothing. So keep that concept in mind. In one case, smoothing will work. Why? Because there's a buffer. Here there is no buffer, so you have to delay it. Bottom line, you can't desire everything and it will work for you. So if you don't give me resource and you still want to finish it on time, it's not possible. I guess somebody's mic is on. Okay, let me just okay. Now, pretty much this is what you talk about, resource optimization. Quick check on this one if it's okay and clear. When is smoothing applied and when is leveling applied? Simple words are utilizing free float in smoothing. Yeah, absolutely. And because you don't have smoothing in the like free float in leveling, you will have to delay it. That means critical path will get changed. Project duration will get extended. Bottom line, keep the words in mind that smoothing is applicable with the floating, and without float, you have to do level. This is where, in both the cases, keep this in mind. You have resource constraint. You do not have resources available, so you have to get the job done. So you have to optimize the resource here. That's what we call as resource optimization. Now, even you do everything, while you're doing everything as per your best of your knowledge, your skills, but your project is getting delayed. So what do you have as an option? We have already talked about it. You have to compress the schedule. And we talk about two things, which is fast tracking and crashing. Fast tracking and crashing both will be to catch up, to speed up. Bottom line, we'll try to win. There is a variance. So actual versus planned. If you do actual versus planned, we see that we have a negative variance created. That means we are behind the schedule and we are not doing good. So we have to catch up the gap which is created. So probably we started here. We are supposed to finish here. As of today, I should have reached at this stage. And as of today, my actual work is here. So there is a gap of this, which is highly, the planned was this, the actual is this. This is about 7 days of gap which we have. So we are behind by 7 days, and that means my project will get delayed by 7 days, and which I don't want to happen. So I have choice. Now, either to cover the 7 days, you can do a fast tracking or you can do a crashing. In both the cases, your contingency reserve will be used. Contingency, both cases, you are going to use contingency reserve. You will be utilizing the funds which you have locked for unexpected, like basically the risk factors of things getting delayed. So you will utilize, you will have extra resource, you'll end up paying overtime, you'll end up paying probably getting extra resources. So bottom line, you are going to get extra resource in both the cases. So you're going to get extra resources, you will have to pay money. So you will pay the money from your contingency reserve, because that's extra thing which has happened because of some XY reason. So, but in both cases, you're going to utilize resource extra, so you'll be paying more. Now, only difference is in the approach of fast tracking, I will do work parallelly. And in case of crashing, I'll add up more resources to speed up the work. So what will be done in case of, let's kind of go back and, so what will be fast tracking in the same schedule here? This is where I should have been. This is what I am right here. So there's a 7 days of gap. Now what I can do, I can tell my team, okay, let's from here on, at least now, well, we were slow in some part and that's why we got behind. Now from here on, let's make sure we maintain the right pace. Let's maintain the right pace, which is the normal pace. The normal pace can be maintained from here on. And if it's a matter of covering the 7 days, I will get some extra people who will be able to kind of find some activities in the future. Say there are some activities of say 3 days. This is about say 2 days, another 2 days. In the future, we are supposed to do these activities. So if so I will get some extra people who will end up doing this work for 7 days before those activities. If those activities can be preponed, I will have extra team involved and this team will do the job. So by the time I reach here, I will see, okay, I don't have to do this 2 days work. So I will cover up the gap. So when I again do the job and find, okay, the 3 days work is already done. So I have covered up the gap. So again, when I do some job and find out, oh, 2 days work is already done. So there's a parallel team which will be working and covering up the gap, which is supposed to happen in future. They will get it done parallelly. Now there is a risk because you're doing the work well before time. There's a risk of rework, errors, and all that, but we will take the risk. Bottom line, you don't have a choice. So you will, there's without no risk, no gain. So you will end up taking risk because there will be, because you're doing the work which is supposed to happen in future. You're trying to forecast, sit down and kind of discuss with the team and trying to do it parallel. It's quite possible that what you've done may not be required in the future. Things might have changed. So yes, there's a risk, but we will take that risk. That's parallel work. Second thing, well, I don't want to do this. Well, we are behind. I know this is 7 days gap. Well, we have got, say, 5 people working. Let's add 2 more people and speed up the work so we can catch up. But the delay is because we have probably less resources. Let's add more resources and catch up the gap. That's what is crashing. In both the cases, you're going to pay extra money to the people. You'll adding more resources. And since you're doing something not natural, here you're speeding up the work more than the natural speed. It may again result in rework and errors. Defects will happen because you're trying to speed up things, which is generally not the pace. So both cases have a risk and we will take the risk as project manager. This is bound to be taken. We don't have a choice. We will be taking it in order to avoid baseline getting impacted. Okay, if there's no risk occurred as planned and the budget reserved for the rose risk will emerge into contingency fund. I get, look, so if no risk has occurred as planned, then the budget reserved for those risks can be merged. Contingency, so they will be still there. See, contingency reserve will always be there. So if the risk happens, then I use that budget. Otherwise, not. You can't use that budget for your regular work because the actual cost is actual cost. But you have parked some extra budget for the risk factors. And if that risk happens, you're going to pick the money from that contingency funds. So you will, by default, it's going to be there. If it's not, doesn't happen, it's untouched in that case. Is change request needed before complete? No, it's not. It's not. Change request is not needed for this one because it's still within the project manager's domain. So you have certain authority to kind of work with this. And yes, it depends on, well, what is what is allowance given by the management. So it all in all, this is not, we are trying to change request will be required when your baseline gets impacted. So it's not. And that's what we want to avoid. We want to avoid the change baseline getting impacted. Cost effective, see, again, there's nothing called cost effective here. It's in certain scenarios, probably fast tracking will work. It depends on scenario to scenarios. There's nothing called cost effective. Because in both the cases, you are going to get more people to do the job. So you have to pay for the resources again. In certain cases, you might see fast tracking is working for you. In some cases, crashing will work. So again, and in some cases, nothing will work. And then you will have baseline impacted. Even if you want to, nothing will change and your baseline will get impacted. So then you have to have a change request done. Is it okay with everyone? Quick check on this one, meaning fast tracking crashing. It may not always work, so change request will get created. Even then, your change request will come. Even if you want not to, it doesn't work all the time. So you will have change requests. So all in all, when you have a schedule management plan created, again, remember it's a baseline. Once it's a baseline, well, it's baseline. Anything which will happen will be changed through change control process. If in case the baseline gets impacted, you'll have to have change requests. There's nothing which gets, so now it's a planned and then you keep doing the job and you compare. And that's when you see the variance calculated, the SPI will come into picture, schedule performance index, you'll see, and that will be calculated. So, well, you need to have the comparison done. So planning is happening right now. That's all, because execution will result in action. And then we will monitor and control to see if there is a variance created, a negative, a positive. Variance can be positive or negative both. So if I may have done the job faster, I'll have positive variance, which is good. But if I would have done job slower, then it will be negative variance, which is technically bad. Okay, this is 100%. This section, well, symbol is wrong. Symbol is wrong here. But this slide is all about agile. Let's understand here. So when you talk about agile framework, like this is more about software development, designing, and you have done the job of kind of deploying it with the customer. So now the terminology you got to keep in mind, these terminologies are used. So say we know for sure that this is release 1 will be done, release 2 will be done, release 3 will be done, and so on and so forth. So you have to kind of keep like sit down with a product owner, decide on the time when you will be doing release. And you can't do release in a live environment like those banking applications. So you get those messages that you will not be able to use your banking application between these hours and these hours. There's a scheduled maintenance going on. Actually, they're doing the releases or they're doing some updates. And that's what we negotiate. We will be negotiating how long it will take. But basically, because you can't do on a live environment. So they have to suspend the active users, so you can deploy your whatever changes and updates you're going to do or releases you're going to do. So every time you have to negotiate and plan for those the downtimes, and these have certain names. So just keep that in mind. The names we have to keep in mind. The word blackout. Now, blackout is pretty much when you're doing the release, the handovers are done. This is the releases. When you do the handovers, these are referred as blackout times. So you do the suspension. You do not do on a live environment. Nobody does on live. So you suspend all the changes which are going on. So active things are like active users will be basically notified. They will be, you can't use the application. And yes, for that period, you will be kind of releasing this and testing whether it's working. I hope it's not behaving awkwardly. It's not gone wrong. Okay, perfect. Now when go live. So basically, when you do the suspend, the blackouts will be done every time. But in the end, when you do the final release, and that's your final release, this is going to be called as go live, because you're going up with a final release here. This last one will be referred as go live. Go live is what we talk about. So you will have a backup, like blackout, you can talk. But the last one is when you're kind of closing everything, the last sort of update which is happening, that will be called as go live. This is at the end of the project timeline, because you sort of, after this, the job will be done, the deployment will be done, everything is going to be done. So that's called as go live. Apart from that, the same term at this stage, when you talk about when you have your project retrospective done, practically, when you do it before that, the last sprint. So there will be sprints required here. The sprint, like hypothetically, talk about release 3 only. So release 3, we had, say, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. So sprint 1, sprint 2, sprint 3, sprint 4, and sprint 5. So we know for sure that every sprint we would have a demo. We had the team would do a retrospective, sprint retrospective. We pull out the item again, we do the job. But the last one, the last sprint, which is after which we'll do a go live. So last sprint, after which this release 3 will happen. This is what we call as hardening sprint or iteration, like iteration H for iteration is the sprint and H for hardening. What it means, this is the last sprint before the final release. Before the final release is going to happen, this is the last sprint. So this hardening edge will be called for sprint 5 and not for sprint 1, sprint 2, sprint 3, sprint 4. No, that will work normally. But I know for sure there'll be no more sprints after this. This is the end of sprint. So we say iteration edge or hardening sprint. And once you do this hardening sprint, that means sprints have hardened, means it's gone. It's no longer going to happen. And then you do the go live after this. So before go live, you have hardening sprint done. So the terminology, when, where, what comes into picture, you got to keep it in mind. So all in all, every time you're doing this releases, you're doing a blackout, which is negotiated downtime. We'll agree with the customer, inform the timeline, how long it will take, and all that. So that will be called as blackout times, which are downtimes negotiated. When the last release is about to happen, the last sprint of the last release, it will be the end of that sprint. We'll call as hardening sprint. That means there will be no more sprint after this. And once that's done, we will go live. Go live is used for the last downtime which we'll have, where you do the final release to the customer. So terms to understand when, where it will come into picture. Now, quick check on this one, if it's okay and clear. Okay, perfect. Let's then go ahead. So while you prepare this sort of schedule, well, it's kind of, it's still going to talk about your agile part of it. Well, have a look at, well, you talk about schedule management in case of a hybrid one, I guess hybrid or adaptive one, like same as a team composition and like depends on the life cycle, basically what kind of project you're working on. And this team composition is controlled by the product owner is the one who decides the team composition, whether I'll have like senior. I'll have to will have allow me a quick moment. So I'll have to unfortunately go and do that, which is I would not have preferred. Allow me 1 second. Right now, just give me 1 second. All right, let me go here. We go again. Okay, perfect. Now, when we talk about hardening, this team composition, it's all going to be controlled by the product owner. So product owner decides if we're doing a particular sprint. Well, in a particular sprint, it's early days. We don't need too much of complicated stuff. So what kind of people I need here? Well, I don't want to be spending utilizing my like a resource which is like 15 years old, like a experience. Well, this guy is very expensive. So I don't want this guy to be sitting and doing the clerical work, simple coding stuff. I would decide probably, okay, somebody with a 2 to 3 years experience, well, can do this more of the clerical job. And if there's troubleshooting which has to be done, this guy can do it. So the team composition is controlled by the product owner in case of Agile. Project team works with the product owner to decide basically whatever needs to be done, develop the roadmap to show release functionality. We understand that. And practically, this one we already know. This is time box schedule, which is the Scrum method we're talking about, the sprint one. And this is what we have been always saying. There are like more than 50 methods for Agile. And yes, we will see a slide where we can compare this one. On-demand scheduling, you call it continuous scheduling, you call it lean-based method, you call it as Kanban, all are same. Everything is same. So you can call it any which ways, they are same. So these are all coming from lean concept, the Lean Six Sigma, lean part of it. So these are all different names for the same thing. So that's also a way of Agile implementation. What we are focused on and whatever we are learning is only about this one, which is the first one, time box scheduling, which is we're using sprint wise. And we have a backlog kind of concept. That's a Scrum-based method, which we have to keep in mind. But here we will see a slide which will compare Scrum versus the Kanban method. We'll be seeing that. So project team pulls the item, we do the job in iteration, pretty much the team produces incremental value, and that's pretty standard, basic, generic one. Now we'll look at a comparison chart, which will compare Scrum-based method that we know what we will be learning versus what is the Kanban method. Just one slide, but our core aspect is only the Scrum method, so we don't care about the other ones. Honestly, this is the one. So I need to explain about like this one. Let's read this one. The time box, which is the sprint one, which is our method, the sprint-based method, the Scrum-based method is right here, which we already know, but let's quickly look at this. Progressive elaboration, well, we get to know what task needs to be done. We'll be working with like certain time interval, which is typically 2-week sprint. Changes are allowed during the project, which we allow, but never during the sprint, never during the sprint. Allows during the project, yes, during the demo sessions, we can allow the customer to make changes, but nothing during the sprint. Requirements for the user stories are there and the data are prioritized. We understand that. We will pick up the user stories based on priority, put that in the time box, which is your sprints, add the user stories to the backlog, reintroduce user stories based on priority. Bottom line, we deliver value incrementally. That's the Scrum-based method we already know. The other method, which is we say just a comparison chart, we'll see what is the Kanban method, lean method, on-demand scheduling, everything. But let's see what is that. How does it work? I'm just going to go back, and not too good, honestly. For complex projects, it's not too good. Well, so for simple projects, it will work fine, but not for complex projects. Let's see, quick one here. I'll do some bit of sketch work here to explain this one. So let's understand how this Kanban sort of thing works. Let's see. Just trying to go and sketch it the best possible way I can explain this one here. There's a Kanban board, which is a visual signaling system, which is going to be here. That's my visual signaling system. A board, pretty large board, visually, like you can see by a glance, this board. So this is, let's say, call it to-dos. Here it's for to-dos. This is a design. Then we have development. We have got testing. Debugger. What are you going to do? This debugging, and then pretty much it's deployment. Say, this is deployment. That's Kanban-based method. Like, say, there are some requirements, the user stories kind of thing. So we have requirements which are listed here. Some requirements which you have to work upon. Now, how Kanban works. So we have, these are the resources we have got. So in our project for this, we're doing whatever we are trying to create here. We have planned 2 designers, 1 developer, 2 testers, 1 debugger. Pretty much that deployment, 1 person is doing the deployment job. That's the resources which are working, the core team, the team people. So now how does this sort of function works? Now the user stories are like, or basically the customer requirements are here. We can pull those items and start, we can start doing the job. You know, my designers are not available. The developer is waiting, tester is waiting, debugger is waiting, everyone is waiting, and the work is not happening. Why? Because you don't have the designers ready. Why? Because they are working as shared resources. They are also working for some other project, they are doing the job. So they are not available. The work is stuck. That's what we call pull-based method. Kanban is pull-based mechanism. Pull-based mechanism. That's what we got to keep in mind. It's coming from the lean concept. Pull-based mechanism where it works and where the team will has to pull the item. And it depends on the entire logic is based on availability. Availability of resources is what drives this. If somebody is available, we'll do the job. Otherwise, not available, well, who is going to do it? So here, let's say one of the designer got free. Now is this guy's available. So he comes and pulls the item here. This item, he starts working on this item. This item is being worked out. He's working, and the second designer is still not available. So he completes the job and parks this item here. And so then the moment he pulls this item and parks the item, he's free. So he picks up another item. He starts working on it. So the moment he has completed this job, the developer would pull the item. Since this guy is available, he'll pull the item and start doing the job. Testers are not available. He's doing the job and development probably takes more time. By the time another designer got available. So now this is pretty much was moved here. But now this guy is doing, and pretty much we have the second designer also available. Is doing they're doing the job. So the developer is, this guy has moved one more item out here. And now he's pulling up one more item to do the job. So while this item is still waiting, why? Because this developer is still waiting and doing the job with the previous task is going on. And this item which has been designed is waiting to be developed, but this developer is not available. Let's say hypothetically, this guy completed the task, he parks it here. Now the tester is available, they will pull the item. So it is all moving when somebody is available, this guy is pulling item. So somebody has to pull the item. And how does it happen? Based on availability. If my resource is available, the resource will pull the item and the task will move. So it works best when the workload is equally distributed. If the workload is equally distributed, how it will work? This guy, like say, this guy will do the job, it moves here. This guy will do the job, it moves here. If it works, if it's equally distributed, the work will move seamlessly. It is fine. Problem will happen when one work is done, and when this guy starts working, his workload is quite high, and this guy is doing the job. It's taking time. While this guy would have piled up more work for him. But this development part takes more time. So the work will get piled up here when we'll be waiting for the developer to pick the item. So there will be a delay. So it is ideally not advisable for complex projects. It's simple. When it's simple stuff, you can always work with a pull-based mechanism. Well, it will work fine. When I do the job, it moves, and you do the job, it moves. When it's moving freely, it's a great one. It's easy one. But whenever you deal, there's some unequal distribution of work, it will start getting piled up. So, for example, this guy does the job, the testing guy doesn't take long time, but debugging takes a lot of time. There will be always a pile up here. So the debugger takes a lot of time. The item which will be tested and will be waiting. Why? Because when you have a problem, this guy will have to go and solve the problem. Solving a problem takes a lot of time. So the work which will done will take more time. So there will be items waiting for the debugger to solve. Bugs which have been found will be waited. People will be waiting because this guy is still busy solving the previous problem. He's not been able to solve it yet. The items will be waiting. It's not a good method when we deal with typically this method. So, well, if it's a complex scenario, the traditional method is the best one. It will not work. Okay, give me one quick second here. Continuous flow, also absolute, or you call it continuous flow, you call it lean-based method, you call it Kanban, you call it on-demand scheduling. Everything is same, Mr. Samar. There was internet interruption. Those headings are the number of resources. Niyamat, there was the number of resources here. There. Okay. Now have a quick look at it. What it works when it works here. Allows individual requests to be addressed. Levels out the work of team members. Best when the activities are equally divided. does not work well in projects with complex dependencies. It does not. Honestly, the team will pull the work, and when they will pull the work, when somebody is free and available. If I'm not free, I'm not available, the work will get stuck. And I'll show you a video, which is exactly how Kanban or pull-based mechanism works, which is from Six Sigma, which is exactly the same. The concepts have been borrowed from Six Sigma. This is 100% Six Sigma, lean rather, not Six Sigma, but lean. I'll play a 1 minute video, not more, but 1 minute exact video, which will give you an idea how this works and what problem I was talking about. Have a look at this. No audio. This is the problem. Look at the one. Wherever the work gets stuck, it gets stuck and the time gets extended. Look at same items, but done differently. But if it moved easily, like if it does, there's nothing getting stuck, you'll see the work will get done faster. But when they'll get stuck, will be work in progress inventory, which will be done. And the more the work in progress, the more delays it will happen. So this is the pull-based mechanism which works. And practically, we always prefer to have a single piece flow, which is from a lean perspective. Again, we don't want to be getting into lean part of it. Yeah, it is something which we want to avoid like for a complex project. And that's why our Scrum method is the best one any given day. But again, it can be worked out for simple projects. It can be done. But again, that's the only slide where you have information about, because that's not what we are going to get into, because our core role is the Scrum part of it. Quick check again before we move in there. I hope it's okay and clear. Basic concept of what is this Kanban method, and which is pretty much good to know, because our entire syllabus is all about the Scrum method, for which we have seen videos, we know the backlog and all that stuff. That is what we will be dealing with. Let's see this one. Okay, we already know all these terminologies, but good to quickly just scan through what is written here. So we have releases. We know that there's a product roadmap, which is there. Release 1, release 2, release 3. Every release will have some sort of sprints there. In every sprint, there will be user stories. And practically, we're now going to the stage where we'll be talking about effort estimation. How do you estimate the duration, like basically the estimation techniques of Agile? And that's what we will be talking about, something called story point. We have talked about user stories. What a story point, we'll talk about in a moment. But again, user stories are requirements we know, and we pull those items. There is the sprint is for like between 1 to 4 weeks. You understand that. Velocity, we know what's the average number of user stories the team is processing. Basic stuff. Same stuff what we already know. The new term, which is now we'll be going into, is what are estimation techniques in Agile. How do you know how long it will take? That's what we'll be getting into. So that's what we are about to get into now. Let's see what is it. It is more about getting into that elements. Work with features. We know what are features. When you do use your user stories, one or more user story will be required to develop a feature, and one or more features will be required to develop an epic. I hope we recall that conversation from yesterday. Epic, features, and user stories. They're all really interconnected. Story map. We talked about there's a story mapping, which is where your most important one will be prioritized on the top. Least important will be at the bottom. And who does this prioritization? The product owner will be the one who will be supposed to sit down and prioritize, read the backlog all the time, reprioritize the backlog. So it will be always on the highest priority, second highest priority, third highest, fourth highest. The lowest priority is here. So our story map helps you to kind of understand the prioritization done by the product owner. So the team will pull the items from this layer, always from the top priority items. That's how you will be kind of looking at it. All in all, basic elements. You already like story map. You already know what is that. Now, this is what we wanted to kind of talk about. These are the Agile estimation techniques. And honestly, they all one. So we'll see, we'll talk about it. We'll need some bit of sketch work more. But again, before we get there, I want you to keep this terminology in mind. Like there, it says measure effort and not time. You're expected to measure the effort and not the time. So what it means, try to measure, is it less effort? Is it like medium sort of effort? Or is it like high effort? Measure the effort. Is it like easy, very difficult, or difficult? That's what it says. Measure effort, and don't measure like it will take 1 hour or 5 hours or 2 hours or like 1.5 hours. No, don't do that. That's not what we don't do that in Agile. We don't measure the time. We don't say, okay, for you to design and develop this user story, you will take, say 4 hours. For this user story, you will take 3 hours. For this story, you will take, say, 1.5 hours. Or probably for this story, you will take 1 hour, 1 hour and 10 minutes. No, we don't do that. It's waste. Agile doesn't work that way. We measure effort and not the time. So that concept I have to keep in mind. Agile works on something called relative estimation. And we will be going and understand relative estimation. That is what we use for Agile techniques. We don't try to, we intentionally do not want to be perfect. We do not want to be perfect, because in order to become perfect, we'll make so much of blunder and we'll be even more wrong. But relative estimation will always make you very close to the correct answer. So relative estimation works well, honestly works well. So let's see how does this work? Everything here, and we talk about, there are 3 concepts you see here. Well, it's been given here: relative t-shirt sizing, story point, planning poker. Well, if I talk about all the 3 has, but we have we'll talk about it. We'll go and talk about, but we always, so we measure the effort, and according to that, the time will be further associated. We'll talk about, and we'll just, but again, it's more about effort is estimated. We don't want to be perfecting the time, and we'll see how, like, it's quite possible there could be some bit of variation, but we can quickly talk about that. So the 3 methods, all the 3 methods we talk about: relative t-shirt sizing, story point, or planning poker. Trust, they're 100% all the same, And what is same? Look at this word, Fibonacci series, Fibonacci, and this symbol is actually for Fibonacci, and this also uses Fibonacci. Honestly, it's not written here, but it's everything here is about Fibonacci. Everything is about Fibonacci. Let's understand what is Fibonacci, and then we'll come back to this. If you understand one, you understand all of them. They're all just like, it's just like one. Honestly, they're all one. Let's see what is Fibonacci says. We'll go and kind of use some bit of sketch work. Anyone will help me? What is Fibonacci series, Fibonacci sequence? If you know what is Fibonacci sequence, anyone has an idea? 1, 2, 3. No, we missed out AJ. We missed out 1 in between, something in between. How does Fibonacci series work? Let's kind of talk about it. Yeah, Suchitra, that's perfect. Yeah. So we always, when we talk about Fibonacci series, how does it work? So we always add up 2 consecutive numbers and we get the number. And we'll talk about what is so special about Fibonacci series. The cumulative sum, yes. 0 plus 1 is equal to 1. Now 1 plus 1 will be equal to 2. 2 plus 1 is equal to 3. 2 plus 3 is equal to 5. 5 plus 3 is equal to 8. 8 plus 5 is 13. 13 plus 8, 21. And so on. So you can go on and on. You know what is this number? The some number sequence we're talking about is 1, 2, 3, 5, 8, 13, 21. And if you add them together, we'll go on and on. This is what we call as Fibonacci series. And now let's understand what is this Fibonacci series. What does it mean? It is the most naturally occurring number sequence. And I'll tell you why when I say, what do you mean by most naturally occurring number sequence? Anything which is created by nature, by God, will always follow this Fibonacci. Anything. Till date, there has been not even a single evidence where it has been proven that it does not, if it's created by God, nature, it will never, ever have any like any number which will be different from Fibonacci series. Well, if you want to see what I mean here, if you count your fingers, you've got like 5 fingers, it's a Fibonacci's number. You talk about your eyes, we've got 2 eyes, that's Fibonacci number. You pick up, like if you pick up a flower, any flower, and you start counting its petals, the petals of the flower. You keep counting the petals of the flower, and trust, you will always find, you'll actually not find this one. You'll always find, you count petals of any flower, that will be any of these numbers in the Fibonacci. You pick up like probably a branch of a tree, and like there are, say, leaves on the tree, whatever leaves are there. You count the leaves, and that count of leaves will always and always be a Fibonacci number. You count the toes of any animal, you will say that okay, it will always be. So anything which is created by nature will always be a Fibonacci number. This is the most naturally occurring sequence, which is basically created by God or nature. You call it. Bottom line, that's what we said. We always go ahead and kind of use it this way. So, well, we can see customization is always done, Sujitra. People do that, like, but again, the core talk, like when core about Fibonacci, that's the reason why they say it's the most naturally occurring sequence. So we will use this for estimation techniques, because that's how something is supposed to happen in real world scenario. Also, it is what is likely to happen in case of Fibonacci series also. So they use the core as Fibonacci series. We can always, like, modifications are always there, but all in all, when we talk about, typically that's the like the sequence of adding the two consecutive numbers, and it has been seen. There has been no evidence till date, at least not even one example, where they have been able to defeat this logic that it does not follow. It has. They have tried to look at different kind of species across the globe, and they could not find anything till date. At least that, as per my understanding, they have not been able to find. Nobody has been able to find anything which does not follow a Fibonacci series number. Now, with that being said, let's talk about how does it work. And please, if I can quickly go back and kind of let me unmute like for people who give me one quick second. I'll rather have to unmute everyone, like, just to make sure that we are able to talk through this. If you have a different perspective, well, I would definitely encourage you to kind of share that. I will go and explain what we pretty much have been talked about. Well, I am not from software development, but I would definitely respect people who are doing the job day in, day out, and you feel something different with about what we talk about, whatever we're going to talk about, you can do it. You can just definitely pitch in here. So let's talk about what we start with now. So I'm going to talk about the first thing, which was t-shirt sizing. We saw the t-shirt sizing there. So what is this t-shirt sizing? Let's kind of understand the t-shirt sizing concept here. So we're going back to the logic that we are not trying to be perfect here. We do not intentionally don't want to be perfect here. So we want to estimate a user story, which is relative estimation. So I'm going to write down some user stories, and please help me out with this. So I will write down some user stories. I have to make the home page of a website. We have to make an about us page on the website. I have to make a contact us form, a contact us form. I have to create that. These are user stories, right? Like, what do you want to see in? So in a common language, these are user stories required. We will have to create probably a option to register. People can register or pretty much even log in to their account. When they register, they can log into the account. Probably a forgot password. And we would love to have some sort of secured server, SSL secured server integration done. Payment gateway to be done. And let's pick up one more additional. Let's say what else can we add? Homepage, when we talk about it. What else? Probably an AI, some AI chatbot. That's what we want. So that can guide us what to do on that website. Let's call it. So these are user stories, and we're trying to go and understand how long it will take and the time and effort and all that stuff. So how does it work? So when we generally talk about the t-shirts, let's say the first thing we talk about is t-shirt sizing. T-shirt sizing, we have got different sizes t-shirt. So in t-shirt sizing, we are trying to, we're just going with a small t-shirt size. Generally, we talk about a medium one, and let's call it large. Small, medium, large. And we we'll try to call the user story as when I say small, like means a small t-shirt sizing kind of means it is not too much of effort. Like if I want to work on this one, the user story, it's not too much of effort. So it's a very like it can be done easily. It's not a big deal. A medium user story will be called as like it's like not that simple, but it's not too complicated also. Large is like very, very complex. And you could have an extra large also, which is like very, very complicated and like probably like a lot of work will be required. So we got all the domain experts, the technical team sitting together. Remember, the team is the one who takes the decision. So we pick up a user story and you tell me, like, so I'm going to ask you all, so your opinion, what will you call this? Typically, what you mean by small is like this, to develop this user story, it's pretty simple, easy. Don't worry about it. Medium is something which is like tougher, like more little tougher, but it's not too complicated. Large is like complicated. This is like very, very complicated. It will take a lot of effort to develop this. So I'm picking up a user story. You guide me. What do you call this user story? Will you call it small, medium, or large, or whatever it is, or extra large? Let's call this. I have to do like inbuild the functionality of forgot password. So you can click on forgot password, and you will be able to get a the email or basically the OTP or whatever, or you to reset the password link. Would you call it as a small, medium, or large? It's like too much of work to set up and create an account, like some sort of thing which will enable a forgot password kind of thing.
It's
or
easy.
Easy or very difficult. We got a lot of and so I'm going to kind of put this together in a different way so that we are able to relate with it. So we have a team member 1, we have a team member 2, we have a team member 3. So we bring in this user story and we try to understand what is your opinion about this user story, like this forgot password. So this team member, like we also have a discrepancy here. This is quite experienced guy, and he believes that well, it doesn't take long. You just have to, this guy has done it so many times and it's a pretty simple stuff. It's not a big deal. So he says, well, it's a small user story. Well, I forgot password. Enabling that function will not take too much of time. This guy is sort of relatively experienced, but not that experienced, and feels that this is like a medium kind of user story. This guy also feels that, no, this is like small user story. Now we have a discrepancy. So one has so what we'll do is that we'll have a discussion. We'll try to convince this guy, well, what is so difficult about it? So, we are trying to go and figure out, this is small or medium. Well, we all both believe it's small. So either you help us understand why it should be treated as a medium, why it's not easy, like it is a little difficult. What's so difficult about it? So either you explain us or we'll try to justify our reasoning how this is small. It's not going to take too much of time. It's easy one. So I'm assuming that they were able to convince the gentleman. It's not too much. It's like, this is what we need to do. It's not going to be the big deal. So even this guy agrees that it's a small user story, just forgot password. That's going to be not going to take a lot of time. So we have a reference now as a team, how a small user story looks like. For everyone, we have a reference called small user story looks like a forgot password. Now, creating a, let's say, getting the secured server SSL integration done. Would you call it small, medium? Oh, well, okay, now help me. If you found this, okay, let's now, how do we start now? SSL certification, when you have to do it, do you think it's similar to forgot password, or is like more complicated than that? If you talk about doing a SSL secured server, this SSL certification done, do you think it's simple as like a same as like a forgot password, or it's more complex? Definitely more complex, right? It's definitely more complex. So it can't be simple. Now you try to say, understand, is it complicated, like very complicated? I guess that will require some bit of large kind of thing. So we believe it's not that simple also. Well, it's definitely, there's no point in talking about simple, but it's not even medium. It needs some bit of more testing, and a lot of things have to be kept in mind. It is complicated. So we all agree, probably as a team, well, this is how a large user story should look like. Definition of a large user story. So now we have a reference for a large user story. What kind of work will be like a large user story? Let's get this about us page. would you say it's a small or it's too complicated? Small or too complicated? Small, relatively, like forgot password, about us page. Well, small. So we have a reference point, like it looks like close to, similar to this one. Let's call it small. Let's say we're going to create a home page. Small, medium, or like it's like too easy, or the large one. I would say it's medium because its home page has got a lot of links to will come to the home page. It's just not a random page. Home page has a lot of functionality. Different links will come into. It's actually typically a medium one. Single pages are easy. Home page is a collection of a lot of things. So medium, like say this is, I'm going with medium for now. This is how a medium looks like. It's not like a single page. Home page has a lot of functionality. A lot of like links will come to home page. So that is sort of a medium for us. Now help me understand. Now, if we have understanding what is small, what a medium looks like, what large looks like, can you tell me whether would you call contact us form? Is it close to small? Is it close to this one or is it close to this one? Contact us. We all agree now it's relatively easy to understand. Well, this is similar to these forms. Register a new user, relatively close to what? Register a new user. People will just sign up with their ID and password, basically. Small, medium. Well, do you think it's close to what? Is it close to forgot password or it's close to signing up a new user? It's not like it should be easy. It's why is it large? A new user, like creating an account. Setting up an account, it's more close to forgot password. Yes, it's more close to forgot password. It's not a big deal. Honestly, it's not one. So, well, this is, again, honestly, a small one. To be very honest, like it's a real world also. It's a like, how about login page, creating a login page? Like, so you can, if you have your ID and password, you can log into your account. Again, pretty much a kind of small thing. Have a look at this. Payment gateway integration. Is it close to what? That sounds like a large one. Like it's a payment gateway integration will take some time. Extra large or probably large. I will agree with that. Like, so large or extra large, we can have a debate there. But again, it will require more work or probably, and if there is a conflict, if there is ever conflict, so you got people who are talking about, so if there is a conflict, we always go to higher side. In case there's a conflict which has got into lower, like it's neither lower, let's say like it neither lower nor extra large, somewhere in between, we'll always lower to higher. If we say it's neither large nor extra large, somewhere in between, we'll go with extra large. If we say small, medium, no, it's neither small nor medium, something in between, we always go with medium. If we say medium, large, it's neither medium nor large, we'll always go with large. We always go to the higher side. How about AI chatbot? That's going to be large or extra large kind of thing. Yeah, it needs more integration and all that stuff, large or extra large kind of thing. So again, we can, so what has made the job easy? First time, finding a reference of small, finding a reference for medium, finding a reference for large or extra large. When you have references, you can always relate. Well, is it close to this? Is it close to this? Is it close to this? The job becomes easy. So all I need is for these references only. If you have a single reference available, you can always compare. Is this closer to this? I don't want to be exact, but is this closer to this or that? So all you need is references only. This, if I'm talking about this 4, I'll take 4 references and my job will become easy. If I look at small, I know how a small looks like. So I can always look relatively, remember saying it may not be 100%. Do you think when I say about us page is equal as like, so all, would you say about us page, contact us form, register, login, all are exactly the same? No, but they're relatively same. So you're not trying to be accurate. You want to be, so we are talking about relative estimation. We don't want to be accurate. We are trying to be relatively accurate, and that's what we were talking about, relative estimation. All mediums, like we have got, like probably all large, are they 100% same? No, they're relatively same. So we do not want to be accurate. We want to be relatively accurate. So why we talk about relative estimation. So one, you just have one reference of small, one reference of medium, one reference of large, one reference of extra large, job done. All I have to say, okay, is this user story closer to this, closer to this, closer to this, or closer to this? Job done. I can classify that user story as small, medium, large, or extra large. Is that concept clear? T-shirt sizing, if that's okay and clear. Okay. Now, what do we do with this T-shirt sizing? It helps us to understand effort. We're not trying to be accurate here. We are not at all even trying, because we don't want to. Because one task may need 1 hour, 10 minutes. Another might take 1 hour, 45 minutes. It will be waste of so much of time to be so that accurate. We don't want to. We just want to have relatively, we want to have an understanding. What is it? Why? Because then the concept of story points will come into picture, which will simplify everything. Why? Well, let's quickly look at. So I'm going to close this, like take away this. Usually we take a break like at 10 o'clock. Like, so we have got still some time. We will be able to get this done. Like, just quickly give me 1 second. So you have, say, hypothetically figured out. So we have done small, medium, large. Now we talk about story points. Same thing will be assigned story points also. Let's see what is it. So all small user stories, well, we will be required to use Fibonacci sequence only. So small user stories, medium user stories, large user stories, or extra large user stories. You can assign a story point as per the Fibonacci sequence. So you have options to choose from 1, 2, 3, 5, 8, 13, and so on and so forth. So we can assign a story point here based on this Fibonacci sequence. So we can say, okay, all small user story, like we will assign say 1 story point. All medium, let's call it like 3 story points. All large, let's call it like 5 story points. And we'll understand what is the value of story point. We'll talk about it. So you have to use a number from this sequence only. You can't use 4. You can't use 6. You can't use 7. You can't use 9. You have to use these numbers only. And let's call it, like, it's like a weight, relative weight. Again, we're talking about relative. And let's call this as 8 or 13. Probably this is quite high. Let's keep it as 13, which is okay. You have to pick the number from the sequence only. And yes, you can, if you want to keep like this as 2, which is fine. But you have to pick the number from this sequence only. Now, what is the value of a story point? 1 story point is generally across industry considered as 4 hours of work. 4 hours of work. Now, if I have say 20 such user stories which are categorized as small, we have got, say, 10 user stories which are categorized as medium. We've got 5 user stories which are categorized as large. We've got, say, 2 user stories which are categorized as extra large. Can you tell me how long it will take to complete this work if you know the value of a story point? These are story points. Would you be able to estimate the time it will take? Is it possible to do that now? If I know,
Yes.
there are 20 such user stories which are small. So I'll have about 20 users, 20 story points here, 30 story points here, 25 story points here. What this is 2 and this is
26.
The 26, right? 26. So these are that's just 2. So basically 2 story points. So I have how many, and each story point is worth 4 hours. Do I know how long it will take to finish the entire backlog I have if I have the estimated user stories? All I did is I applied the small, medium, large with a story point sequence. Is that okay and clear? What is the story point here? So all we have to do is pick up a number from the sequence of Fibonacci series and assign what
50
that
days.
that one. Yeah.
50.5 days.
Perfect.
51. 50.1. 50.5.
We will be able to decide how many sprints will be required. Can we now decide from that how many sprints will be relatively required to finish that job? Yeah, we can, because I know how much time it takes for a particular sprint. With the 2 weekly offs, let's just get the weekly offs out of it. But again, 2 week, like, which is about sprint is about 2 weeks, which we can like remove the weekends. So I know I can say how much time will be taken. So with the same thing, that doesn't change, nothing changes. You can do a planning poker. Same thing, 100%. What is done in planning poker? Exactly the same thing. You don't change. Nothing changes in planning poker. Same sequence. You have cards. You have just voting in using a card. So there is I'm not sure how many people have played a card ever, but still would like to kind of showcase the card thing. So there is a product owner who this who has all the user stories. This guy has all user stories. There's a team member 1. This is 1. This is team member 2. This is team member 3. And now what we're doing here, they have cards. They have cards which has the Fibonacci numbers on them. So this card, there's a card 1, there's a card 2, there's a card 3, there's a card like 5, there's a card 8. So they have cards, Fibonacci cards, which have cards number, the Fibonacci number written on them. So everyone has these cards. So when this guy will show a user story like you forgot password, a user story. So they will have to show the card. Well, I think this is the story point. This is the story point. So they will show the cards instead of having a verbal conversation. They're showing the cards. Same activity. Well, instead of saying in 1 story point, 2 story point, or small, medium, large, I'm using the card which has this Fibonacci series number on them. So you are still using the same Fibonacci, but in form of a card. Rather having a verbal dialogue, you're showing a card. You exactly just use this one. You use this estimated relative size, same stuff, but instead of that, you use card with a modified numbers. You can use this for voting. So you can say 1 or 3 or 5, whatever, and you show the cards. So it's all about your Fibonacci and relative estimation. And you can do it with, you call it t-shirt, you call it numbers, you call it cards, doesn't matter. You talk about the same thing. I hope it's okay and clear. If it's okay, we shall take a break now. If it's okay. Having said that, well, just one. I wouldn't take long, but I just want you to.
I have one question before we move, if you don't mind. As you said, like one story is 4 hours. That's international. Like this is
one
agreed.
story point.
One story point equal 4 hours.
Yes.
Like if you say 2 story points, it's mean like 8 hours, like 1 day. That's done.
Absolutely.
For that.
Absolutely.
Yes. Thank you for confirmation.
So here, Manoj, you were talking about this product owner will be displaying a user story. Will be using a user story. This could be like a forgot password, a login page, or something like that has to be created. So these guys have to, like generally, what we expect them to say, this is a small user story, this is a medium user story, or a small user story. They are supposed to say this. Instead of saying, they are showing the cards. Cards have numbers like 1 or 3 or 2. They're showing cards. That's it. Instead of saying verbally, you're showing cards. That's all what is happening. Whatever we did, it's just instead of replaced by, the conversation is replaced by cards. Card which has Fibonacci number on them. Is it clear? It's just exactly this guy. So we'll keep the whatever with the, so planning poker. Yes. Planning poker is what we work with. And this, let's quickly here, without dealing any further, just want to quickly talk about one element and we can take a break now. Story points. Story points are okay. Well, or is it okay? We can come back and take the break because we can discuss it after the break, the story points part. And having said that, there is one file which has videos of there are some videos which I have link I have shared. I would highly recommend checking these videos whenever you get time. These are all the 3 methods, 6-7 minutes long video for each one of them. I will come back and discuss story points again. We can discuss that. But these are links of YouTube videos which have very clearly explained all the 3 methods. But again, when we come back from break, we can talk about story point. But do check these videos. Barely like 6-7 minutes long video. It's in the same Excel file that we downloaded. So in the last page, you will have see this one. Okay. Let's connect after the break and we'll resume from here. We'll talk about the story points and we'll move on there. Let's take the break. We have a discussion about the story point. We discussed about relative t-shirt sizing, planning poker, and basically again going back to the story point discussion we had. So basically, if we have done a relative estimation for the user stories, we can always define. Say if I am saying all story points that we have. So some of the story points we have, we can assign every story point like so. This is a small. We're going to say a small user story point here. So what is it? It's not working out. Give me one quick second here. We have a small story point. We have a medium story point. We have a large story point. We have an extra large story point. Now, when you want to assign these story the user stories that we have categorized as small, medium, large, well, different stories points that we have. Now, if we have to assign them something called story point, which will help you find out the effort required to solve that. So a small story point can be assigned when typically we have to pick up a number from this sequence, which is the Fibonacci sequence: 1, 2, 3, 5, 8. You use 13. These are the story points which will come based on the Fibonacci sequence. You have to pick up a number based on the sequence only. So we can say that, okay, we are going to assign for all small story points, we can call them, they are worth 1 story point. Each small user story is worth 1 story point. All medium user stories, let's call it like 3 story point. So we're calling every medium user story will be called as a 3 story point. Every large story point, like a large user story, we can call it as 5 story point. Let's call this 8 or 13. Like this is like, but the number that you're going to pick up and assign these story points will be as per the Fibonacci sequence only. You can't assign a story point like 4. You can't assign a story point 6, 7, or 9, or 10, or 11. You can't, or 12 for that matter. You can't assign them. You can assign a story point based on this Fibonacci sequence only. And the meaning of each, when you say 1 story point, a value of a story point is equal to 4 hours worth of effort. The work that will roughly about 4 hours. So if I know that each story point, which is small, typically to complete 1 small user story, I will have to spend roughly about 4 hours for each small user story. If you're saying medium is 3 story point, so and I know each story point is about 4 hours, so that means 12 hours work will be required to complete 1 medium user story. If I say 5 story point for each large, so it will take about 20 hours of work to complete a single large user story point, like a user story. And similarly, 13 multiplied by 4 from like whatever the number comes in. So this is how you estimate. First of all, you assign a certain story point, and the value of a story point is generally taken as 4 hours, which is how it's generally, like if you go and like it's generally most common. Well, people can definitely go and look at variation, customization, but most of the places there's always a story point is kept as 4 hours. Half day of work is about story point. You might see variation. Well, I guess Suchitra, you've been working in the same domain. Can you please, if there is something else that you probably use in your like real world practice that we've been dealing with, you can please pitch in. I guess if there is, what is the value of story point that you use in your organization? Same course, 4 hours?
Yes, sir. Absolutely.
So
but only if we were crossing 20, then we were again breaking them down to smaller size.
Yeah, so basically it's more about, then it's more about the decision making that will be done. Like all in all, you'll have to follow the story points which are as per the Fibonacci sequence only. So if you honestly keep in mind, everything goes back to your Fibonacci sequence only. So the foundation, the core is all about relative estimation. So you don't want to be perfect. You don't want to be accurate. You want to be relatively correct. And for that, you use a Fibonacci sequence. And then that Fibonacci sequence will help you to categorize something as a small, medium, large, extra large. And then for each small, medium, large, you can assign a story point. And then accordingly, you know the value for a story point. You can get to know how much of effort will be required to cover a particular small user story or a medium user story or large user story. So we don't want to be perfect here. We just want to be relatively correct. So the ones who had question about it, if it's okay and clear, I guess Mr. Manoj and you had this question. Perfect. So let's move ahead then. That's the story point part. Let's kind of talk about next one. So goodness. Have to clear this up. Okay. Now, while we work on agile world, like first of all, let's talk about the predictive one. We always have only one element, which is we call as acceptance criteria, which is quality checklist. We have agreed with the customer. My team is going to work as per acceptance criteria. In case of Agile, we call it as definition of done. Basically, that's the DOD, definition of done. In Agile, we call it acceptance criteria and predictive. But apart from the DOD in Agile, we have also called DOR, which is definition of ready. Well, before you get started, you want to know whether do we have the required, because I want to get started and I want to be sure whether I'm do we have required approvals, required resources, required softwares, and whatever is required, like the clarity which is needed, approvals, so basically anything which is needed specifically about the resources and which will be human resource, non-human resources, approvals from the stakeholders. And when we have all the requirement, it's more of a checklist which tells you, are we ready to start the work? Like I will always keep this a checklist to start the development part. It's like, okay, let me kind of give you a very layman example of this. And you plan my vacation. I have a plan to go overseas. And for that, well, before I leave my home for the airport, I will see, well, okay, do I have my passport with me? Do I have got my visa with me? Have I taken my Forex card or not? And basic elements, well, this is done, this is done, this is done. The tickets on all that. Bottom line, it's done. Okay, I can move out. Well, it doesn't make logical sense to check these things at airport. So yes, you want to, before you leave your house, you want to be sure, well, it's all the required elements are done. Okay, now we can move. So this is how it's more of, again, a checklist which helps you to ensure that we have all required elements in place so you can start the work. So before you start the work, you create a DOR. Having said that, there's nothing called DOR in acceptance, like in case of predictive, you have DOR. In Agile, you have DOD. So DOR is before you start the work, and definition of done is will be checked after that work is completed, whether it's done as per the expectation of the product owner. This is additional one, just got to keep in mind. Otherwise, DOD, acceptance criteria, they're the same thing. But you have nothing called, nothing relatable to DOR in case of predictive. It's only going to be used in case of no, our team is not a like DOR. There's nothing called DOR. DOR is more of a checklist. DOR is more of a checklist which tells you that what do we have required elements in place or not. Our team is just a requirement documentation. Our team is just about requirement. It's not a checklist that we'll be looking at. So we only have a checklist there, which is the acceptance criteria and predictive. So DOR only comes in case of Agile framework. Okay, let's see this one. We have talked about this. Oh, goodness. So the product owner and the team collaborate to move the items from sprint, the product backlog to your sprint backlog for upcoming sprint. That typically it's about 2 weeks. We already know that. I don't know how many times they have to repeat the same thing here. Well, same stuff back again in the hybrid. Remember, hybrid is all about predictive and Agile both. So here it's specifically referring to the modules which are related to predictive will be handled with project manager. The parts which are related to Agile will be handled by the Scrum Master, who is going to run the sprints using Agile process. So because they're like components of both. So predictive will be project manager, Agile functions have to work as per the Scrum Master. And it's quite possible the same project manager may be doing the job of a Scrum Master, but then I'm not going to be not going to be acting like a boss. I have to act like a Scrum Master. So the mindset has to change when you start handling the Agile part of it. Well, here you break them down. The work, which is like more, the modules will be created, which is like, this is predictive, this is Agile. There will be separate teams working on predictive, separate teams working on Agile. Because the mindset, the job is also very different. Well, now from here on till all this is all about Agile. You know that. Prioritize the backlog, and so that you can do the job, complete the module. It's about 2 to 4 week sprints, whatever you work best with. You plan the work before iteration, and you prioritize the items, estimate the task, so that you can fit whatever task can be completed in a sprint. And after this job is done, you have a retrospective at the end of each sprint, and you capture the timings. Basically, we discuss the velocity. Are we maintaining the right pace or not? And accordingly, we will be able to adjust the following. So we get to know, are we doing enough user stories per sprint or not, or we have to increase our velocity. Same stuff. There's nothing different in here. Same elements that we have already covered yesterday. Also, we talked about these elements. Let's see, what is it now? Okay, we're done with this. We'll talk about resources now. From a resource perspective, we're talking about both human resource and the non-human resources too. And when we talk about resource, please keep this in mind. The only resource which can be controlled is non-human resource, and human resource will always be monitored. That's what we've got to keep in mind. We can't use the word control for human resources. So you will be dealing with resources, and that will require the people, which is human, and the non-human resource, which is equipment. And not only equipment, there could be like resources like which could be licenses, which could be so licenses also comes the software which will come in. So that's not physical equipment. It can even be softwares, which could be the licenses which are required. So that is non-human resources. So we have to leverage, we have to utilize them best of all, because as a product owner, like bottom line, as a project manager, I have to utilize this resources in the best possible way. And yes, if I only procure resources when I need them, and I release them when I don't need them, because there's a cost for everything. We'll not keep holding on to things. We'll be trying to make the best out of them. So, well, how do you do that? With typically what is a part of your resource management plan, which is, again, the moment you say plan, it's about resource, it's about guidelines, rules, how you should do resource management. So as a project manager, you need to identify the required resources, which is people, basically the skill sets required, and the equipments. How to acquire them, that will be based on your company policy, which is about procurement process. What does the internal process says about procurement thing? That's we have to follow. We have to just inform the procurement department. They will do the procurement as is prescribed by the company policies. We will be giving roles and responsibilities to people during the project. Different people will be required to handle different responsibilities. So we'll develop RACI. RACI, we'll see an example of that RACI. RACI is about giving roles and responsibilities to people. Who will do what? We'll see a sample. It's just an index here. We will, while we're doing this job, you will require the organizational chart, because it's very important to know, well, if you got to procure people from within the organization, who is reporting to who's, because these will be pulled from a particular department. So that person, I'm like, say I have pulled one person from training department, one person from HR department. So I should know who this person is reporting to, So I need to have an organizational chart to make sure I can coordinate, I can speak to the respective heads of the department to get the required resources, because they may still be working on their in their department, and they may be working part-time on my department. So yes, for my project. So I need to know who is reporting to who, with basically, so organizational chart will be required. My project, like resource management part, is all about how do you acquire resources, how do you train resources, how do you develop a team out of them, how do you upskill them and all that. So basically, during the project, I will need to make sure that I can I need to observe the gaps and then ensure they are trained properly so they can deliver the work. And while they deliver the work, I have to continue to give them feedback if they're not up to the mark. So that's my job to monitor them. And again, when the job is done, I'll have to release resource, because there's a cost for every resource. During this part, when I do this job, I have to look at the training part of it, because a lot of training will be required. And we talk about training, there are three layers here. One is simply we call as training. Second layer is called coaching. And third layer is called mentoring. Training, coaching, mentoring are absolutely three different layers. This is simply what we will be covering, because this is more about presentation. The one we're talking right now, the PMP training is a training. What we talk about in Six Sigma, we do coaching. We don't do training in Six Sigma. It's actually coaching, because in coaching we demonstrate. Well, we don't use presentation. We will use data. We will do analysis. We'll show how that analysis needs to be done. So you have to show how to do it in coaching. And mentoring, since you have been coached, you know how to do it. I've shown you how to do it. I've not talked about theory. I've done the analysis for you, and I want you to execute that analysis. So now you do it, and I'm watching you. Don't worry. If you fail, nothing wrong. I'm there for you. Don't worry. So mentorship is basically you let the people do the job and you mentor them how to do it. Well, practically here you were doing it and they were learning from you. Now they do it and so mentoring is a long-term association with somebody. It needs time and investment in them. So you have a sort of bond developed with, you don't mentor everyone, honestly. You mentor only selective people. We'll talk about the team development methods. Well, there are a lot of ways you can coach and counsel your team. look at their gaps and try to do assessment for them. Well, you have to control resources. When I say resource, only non-human resources. You can't control the human resources. And very importantly, the recognition plan. We'll talk as we move forward. We'll discuss about difference between rewards and recognition. Rewards and recognition we have to keep in mind because people do work a lot for that. Rewards and recognition. What is the basic difference? Please keep this in mind. Reward is always done with an item. Some item will be given, like a gift item. Like, for example, you have done an exceptional job and quite happy. We want to appreciate you. I can give you some item like a gift voucher or probably an iPhone, some gift. It is a consumable item, but the thumb rule says never reward without recognition. So you may give a gift, but don't just give a gift, always have recognition done. Recognition, reward can never ever be done without recognition. You will give an item, people will forget that item. So you give a certificate, clap, do whatever you want. Bottom line, people have to be appreciated, make a big deal out of it. So recognition is important. Reward will be always an item, but with a recognition. The recognition doesn't need an item. Recognition is like a pat on the back. Going back and telling this guy in presence of everyone, you have done an incredible job. We're really happy to have you. Probably a certificate. Bottom line, people feel value. This is experience, which people don't forget. Recognition. So reward and recognition. Thumb rule, reward cannot be done without recognition. Recognition can be done just like that because it's a feeling of being appreciated. Still a checklist, and which is we'll see all of this as in the subsequent slides. We'll see that. It's more of a checklist. So you will be looking at your project resources. Recognition is probably the least enforced. 100% of Mr. Faiz, I completely agree with you. This is probably the ignored part, and that's the very important one, I believe. And that's a bitter truth. You're right about that. It's a bitter truth. So you acquire people based on your project needs, based on their skill sets, what is needed, and then you assign them roles and responsibilities. So we'll talk about RACI. Actually, how do you go about giving roles and responsibilities to people? Well, because people have to do the job, you can't do all of it. So people have to be given responsibility. So we develop a RACI chart. Let's see a sample here. Well, we'll be seeing in a moment. So while you're going to give responsibilities to people, you need to have resource calendar. What does resource calendar do? It helps you to understand the availability of resources. So if you're going to get resources within the organization or you're going to procure from outside, bottom line, I need to see the resource calendar, which tells me the availability of the resources. Because according to that, I can assign responsibilities. So if I have to give responsibilities to people, I need to know whether the responsible resource will be available to perform that task or not. So again, I have to look at resource. And please keep this in mind. It's just not availability of human resource, even the equipments, because say if it's a construction site, there's a truck required, there's a crane required, but that is also resource. Well, it may not be available. My work will get stuck. So I have to talk about material also. If the raw material is not available, how would I do my construction? So every resource will have to kind of make sure the availability of resources is available there. And for that, we will look at resource calendar. Well, you will require them, like thumb rule remains, you will only acquire them when you need them and you'll release them when you don't need them. Well, you will be required, we generally talk about this as JIT concept, just in time. From a lean concept, again, we only procure like the raw material or any resource when you need, at the right time, at the right place, at the right time, at the right price, at the right quality. So nothing before, nothing after, nothing less, nothing more. Just at the right time. So we want to be efficient here. So we will be acquiring resources, and this job of kind of acquiring resource, it is also going to be an iterative process and will be progressively elaborated. I can high level define that, okay, in the next 3 months, we might need this, but things will get clear when you are in the next 3 months, when you completed 3 months, while you're doing the job, you might see things getting changed and updated. So things will evolve. You can't be 100% correct. So high level, I can say in next 6 months, we'll be doing this. We might need this resource, that resource. But while you go forward and you will be in that month, you will have more clarity about what is needed. So again, initially, we can always things can be defined, but they will be elaborated. And yes, as the project goes on, you get more clarity how the next month or next week will be working out. As the project goes on, you get clarity and confidence get better. But again, resource calendar is more about knowing the availability of resource, if the resource is available or not. Procurement department has to be fully involved. Absolutely, they are all interlinked. Mr. Yusuf, they're all interlinked. So it's not, so nobody is working in silo here. So all are interlinked. Your procurement department is all throughout, because you cannot go and procure raw material. You will require people to be doing that job. So you need the procurement department will always be like, it's like hands and gloves. So pretty much you can't just separate them together. They're always together. Quick one, when you're going to give responsibilities to people, well, there are roles which you assign for every task. And this is basically the role. Let me show you the RACI. So let's skip this slide and we'll look at the RACI one. Let's skip this slide. I'm going to go back and show you the RACI. From Six Sigma, RACI here. Just to get a quick idea, how does it work out? That's a RACI model. That's my project team. The project team was supposed to do the job. And there is it. We have just taken an example to how it's done. So we have to conduct a survey. That's the deliverable. I have to get the job done of conducting survey. Now, what we do is we try to discuss as a team and we define the activities and the tasks which will be required to be done. So for conducting survey, I need to define the audience which will be included in survey. You can't conduct survey and include anyone. You need to know the target audience who will be included in the survey. Okay, when you find that, you have to draft the questionnaire, because the questions will be the way you ask question, the number of questions, that can change the result also. So you have to draft the questions, then create a Google form, something like that, survey form. Then you check whether the link is working fine. Are you able to open up the link, or are you able to save information? Then go and conduct the survey and then compile the results. So these are 6 different tasks which has to be performed so that your conducting survey can be completed. So these are the work we have, like the task we have got here. Now we try to understand, well, the rules are given as RACI. Like the thumb rule is R. When we talk about R, stands for responsible. Now for one task, multiple people can be given responsible. Well, who is responsible? Responsible is the one who will do the job, who will perform that task. So defining the audience, we have assigned these 2 people as responsible. Well, if the task is big, we can give more people responsibility. If the task is big, you can give more people responsibility. Well, if the task is small, one person can get it. So you define, your responsibility is given to the person who will be doing the job. So let's call this person, whenever the person is doing it, let's call this person a team member. So bottom line, the team member is supposed to do the job. A task has to be performed by a team member. That's what we call as responsible. Then comes accountable. Accountable thumb rule is that you only have one accountable for one task. So these 2 people are responsible, but somebody will be owner of that task. The job must be done. If the task is not done, somebody will be penalized. And this person is accountable. This person is accountable. This person is accountable. Every task you have only one accountable. The thumb rule is for one task, you can have only one account. Each task will have only one accountable. We don't want too many bosses. Accountable is something like a manager. So the job must be done, and the ownership of getting the job done is on accountable. Accountable has to ensure the work is completed by responsible people. So this guy is a manager and this guy is a team member who is supposed to do the job. So manager is responsible, basically, or rather accountable, to make sure this job is done. And the manager doesn't do it himself or herself, gets the job done by responsible people. Rule remains same. Only one accountable is allowed for one task. Then comes C as consulted. Consulted are people like you and me. See, like the consultants, any expert. And you can have multiple people consulted. Well, I want to take advice, like second opinion. I may get stuck. I'm probably confused. I need some expert to guide me. So I can consult one person. I may consult multiple people. I may not consult if I don't need any idea consultation. I may not have consult. Not necessary. When I need this, when I say who needs, the responsible. When responsible feels that I will be doing the job, and it looks like very tricky job. I might need some guidance from somebody expert. I can choose somebody as my consult, and there can be multiple people consulted. It's okay. It's like taking a second opinion. And then comes I. I is informed. Like when you send an email, you keep people in copy. So you keep people in copy only who are required to be involved in copy, not everyone in the world. So whenever a task has been performed, you can use inform for all the people who needs to be informed about that task. So whenever you use an I will be used for communication, that these people will be communicated about that task. Wherever you have an I, those parties actually will be required to be involved in the communication that this task is happening, this is the progress of the task, or this task has been closed. So you always involve the relevant parties related to the task who needs to be informed about the task, that this task has just started, or this is the status of the task, or we have completed this task. So RACI is something to give roles and responsibility, divide the work, because you can't do it alone. I hope it's okay and clear. We can move on with the RACI. Quick one. Let's talk about then adapt. Let's pick up the answer. We have, it says choose several correct answers. Well, let's rather pick up the wrong answer. Let's pick up the wrong answer because several correct are there. Which one is the wrong answer? Let's not find the correct one. Let's pick up the wrong answer. Okay, Suchitra says B. Danish also says B, and I guess you're absolutely right. Correct, yes. That's the only wrong answer. You're right about that. Adaptive, everyone is a leader. Everyone is a leader. They don't need to be told what to do. This is self-organizing team and everyone is a leader. Yes, they can decide to divide the work and distribute the work themselves, and they can have a central team leader, which they will decide, or they can go for rotational distributed one. Like for first sprint, you are the team leader. Next sprint, I will be the one. Next sprint, somebody else. So that depends on the team, what they decide, but everyone is a leader. Okay, now we coming to the portion we're talking about. This is the stage we will be talking about procurement thing. Procurement has come into picture now. When we talk about procurement, it's all going to be about, let's say, when I want to do some job, and there will be certain scenarios where I don't have the required resources with me, and I might have to procure it from outside. So I will be informing my procurement team that we have a requirement of a particular resource, and this resource we need it from, like, because we have checked internally, we don't have it. So, well, whenever we talk about resource, we have to kind of take a decision about this concept called make or buy decision. Make or buy decision. Make is, that means you do it yourself. And buy is to kind of look at, like, get it from outside, which is vendor. Get a vendor to do the job. Make is like do it yourself, DIY. Do it yourself. Yeah, do it yourself, DIY. So big question to like keep in mind when you're doing a job and you come across there's a skill set required, and within the team we don't have the skill set. Like, say for example, let's take a quick example. Like we were doing the job, we felt that we have to, based on requirement, we need an AI resource, a resource who knows AI integration and everything. We don't have, in my team, there's no one who knows AI stuff. They are good developer, designers and all that, but there's no one who's an AI resource. Big question here is to take a decision as a team. Well, first of all, do you think this kind of skill set is just required right now, or you think this will be required in the future? Well, that we have to understand if this is going to be a recurring requirement in the future. Right now, we don't need it, definitely, and we don't have this guy. So we will definitely have to get it from outside right now. That's one. So do you think it's something which we will require, this skill set will be required for in long run, in future also, for other projects, given the changing dynamics of the market? So we'll have to keep in mind, do you think this will be required in the future? If the answer is yes, then ideally it will be better for some of us in the team to acquire this skill, learn this skill, and or else you at least hire somebody who has this skill for future projects and all. We also would like to consider, is it something which I can learn quickly and deliver the job myself? Well, we already have people who are designer, developer and all, and they're good technical people. So can I ask somebody to go and quickly learn this AI thing and deliver it? Well, probably yes, probably no, but depends on how difficult this is. If it's a very simple stuff, well, they can instantly learn and deliver it. But if it's a very complicated one, so I need to understand how steep the learning curve is. Is it going to be an ongoing need? But basically, do you have such a resource within the organization, or would it be okay? Would it be right to outsource it to a company which is technically expert in this area? I am not. So would it be wise to go and outsource it to the company who is expert in doing this AI job? And yes, when I get such people from outside, then how do I manage their quality? How do I assess them? The cost impact, time impact. So basically, we have to take a call. Is it worth enough? Logical business sense. Does it make sense to do it yourself, or get a vendor to do the job? Sorry about that. Let me give you a quick example for this one. We know the Pepsi and Coca-Cola companies, or you pick up any company for that matter, let's call it Pepsi. Pepsi Pepsi is about the liquid that we feel, the liquid inside. But the bottle that we talk about, the bottle is obviously not done. The bottling is not done by the Pepsi. Bottles are actually would come from a company which is actually into bottling. And there's one company actually who supplies the bottles to all these companies, Pepsi, Coca-Cola, or any other various other companies. There's one company, idly, there's like one of his, like monopoly that other company has. So they provide the bottles. Well, can Pepsi do it here themselves? Well, Pepsi has a lot of money and they can set up the bottling plant themselves. Why do they need to be like they? Why do they need? Because they'll be paying something to this bottling company and they will get the bottles from them. They will do the filling and all. Why? Why can't we set up this bottling stuff ourselves, get the bottles done ourselves? Bottom line, that's not my business. My business is business which is liquid, which is if I get into bottle, there will be another industry. That is going to be a separate industry that I'll have to start up with. So that is while diverging your business, because I want to be in the business of this soft drinks and all. I don't want to get into business of making bottles. So that is one reason. Well, understand the business needs. B, I would like to understand, well, even if I get decide, well, there is a dependency on a vendor. So, and it's an ongoing requirement, Will you need it? Yes, definitely. So does it make logical sense? Then we have to take a call, say on a monthly basis, say we need, say 200,000 bottles. So to get this $200,000 bottles, I will have to buy the machine. I have to get some land, basically set up the machine which can deliver this 200,000 bottles per month. So there's 200 bottles, which is like machines which are worth 200,000. Say that I get these 6 machines which are capable of delivering 200,000 bottles a month. Now, hypothetically, and this is running for, and this is separate business now started, and this is Pepsi, it's for my own consumption. And I'm trying to go and get this Pepsi bottles done from my own manufacturing setup. Now, what if there's a demand, which again, there is a demand upsurge in the market, and now this demand goes up to 280,000 bottles. Now, do you think I will be going ahead now getting extra machines for covering up this extra 80,000? Well, if that's the case, then I would rather plan for such a thing. So I would rather buy, say, few extra machines, which can cover up for the variation. What if the market demand increases? We will be able to cover it up, which makes sense. Then I will be having, say these 4 extra machines or 2 extra machines, which I will keep as a standby. What if the market demand increases? I will be able to catch up and cover up. So the bottling problem will not happen. But then there will be leaner months when it will go down till 150K. More than half of my machines will be unused. So it doesn't make logical sense to go ahead and do this job, because I am not into that area. Well, the companies which are doing bottling, they're doing bottling for everyone. So whether there's so they will be having that capacity. Even in leaner months, they will be able to catch up because they have so many clients. You are doing it for yourself. It does not make logical sense. So they would not, they prefer to get it from outside. So for them, it's a buy decision which makes logical sense rather than to do it themselves. So, well, you have to, whatever the decision is taken by the leadership team, they will be going and talking about, and typically here, we will be talking about the project manager here, who will be taking a call. Is it worth, or probably logically does it make sense to learn the skills ourselves, do it ourselves, or get a vendor from outside, which is where it will be part of procurement. If the decision comes as, let's get it from outside, then you communicate with the procurement team and tell them, guys, well, we need so-and-so resource. Well, then they will be getting into that. My job is over because I'm not the procurement guy and I can't do that job. So now procurement team comes into picture. And what will my procurement team will be getting in doing in this one? Well, typically, you will have a procurement department. In some companies, that department is not there. This job is done by the finance department. If the procurement department is not there, they will be always going with that. Now, there is always a pre-approved vendor list. Pre-approved vendor list is always checked. Like I do only 2 trainings and I do consulting of Six Sigma. I do Lean Six Sigma consulting projects. And on training front, I do Lean Six Sigma and I do the PMP training. When I go ahead and conduct training for like, and I'm a pre-approved vendor because I've delivered the trainings for some corporates and now I've delivered the trainings for Six Sigma. I delivered the training for PMP. Now they have a requirement for delivering training for Excel. How to do Excel, some sort of dashboard, something like that. They will reach out to me first. Why? Because I'm their approved vendor. So there is company always has a list of approved vendor who have done a satisfactory job and they are in the list of approved vendor. But this company will always be comfortable working with the approved vendor because they know their job. They know their job, how they have delivered, their work is satisfactory. Rather than trying somebody outside, I would try to go and work with the ones whom I have seen. I know their working style. They know our working style. Their account has been set up with us. So all that paperwork stuff, all has been done. So they will always reach out to this vendor. And I tell them whenever it happens with these companies, they keep reaching out to me. Well, do you do operational strategy training? Do you do Primavera training and all, like God knows what not? So I keep telling them, no, I don't do anything apart from this. But they will keep reaching out to me always. They always will go with approved vendor. Only when all the approved vendors say no, that's when they will go out to the external vendor. So no external vendor will be contacted unless internal approved vendors, the approved vendors have said no. Now, will every procurement, like say, for example, we need a resource and the budget approved for the resource is $5,000. And they're like for this, probably the project manager approval will be fine. But if they're trying to find this resource and they are not finding, the procurement team is not able to find a resource, the skill set that you're looking for in 5,000, worst case, the lowest they are getting is 7,500. Now that's beyond the approval limits. So now for this, they might have to escalate and get some more signing authorities who will be able to, so project manager plus probably sponsor may be required to sign up and get this additional resource extra because it's outside the authority. So there are based on certain purchase values, there will be certain purchases where multiple people will be required and that can be as per the company policy. That we don't have to do anything here. Procurement team will know for a certain amount of value who all have to be included in approval. If the approval is between, like the invoice is between 5,000 and 10,000, who all are required. If the between 10,000 and like say like 20,000, who are required. Bottom line, that will be this information will be already with the procurement. We don't have to deal with it. This template documentation formats will be coming from the companies as per company policy. The project management office will be providing all that. It's going to be part of the company's culture. Bottom line, these are standard templates which is followed by the company and it will vary from company to company. Well, RFP is request for proposal. We'll see some or more documents. We discussed about these in the Word file. So we'll see all of those, the documentation name. We'll follow the escalation procedure. If there is a limit which is higher than what is allowed, we'll have to follow the escalation procedures. And as and when a vendor's job is done satisfactorily, so this vendor was hired to do a job, there was an acceptance criteria. This guy did the job correctly. My quality team said, good job done. Verified deliverable. Customer did validate scope where the customer said, okay, good job done. Now this job is done. Bottom line, I have to inform the procurement team and all, well, this guy's job is finished. The customer like internally is approved, external, his customer is approved. Well, please go and make the payment as per the contract you have signed with this vendor. My job is like, I don't want back because I need to notify them. There's no more job left. This guy's job is over. So now they can pay the vendor. It's out of my domain. I've informed the procurement team to go and take care of those payments now. So basically, that's going to be part of your procurement strategy where you don't have to do any role apart from informing, because that job will be done by procurement team only. Let's see what kind of contracts we're talking about, like documentation. So it is all going to be about the documentation, different kind of document we'll see now. Basically, it talks about contracts. We'll be seeing a lot of contracts. Predictive contracts are different. Agile contracts are different. And we will be kind of looking into the different kind of documentation will be requested. So we'll talk about, we will be having some standardized documentation procedures will be there, which is the formats and templates will be same. How do you go and procure a vendor? On what criteria you decide a vendor? That is as per the company's policy, we will be doing it. In our case, we require COC certificate for, typically again, it will be completely depend on your company policy and it will vary from company to company. So it's specific to your company and it will be standardized within the company. But again, it will vary from company to company. So it's absolutely fine. We just have to work with them. We will not, as it work with them closely. Bottom line, they are not the ones who, well, we are not supposed to be the procurement guys, but we'll be letting them know our requirements so they can do the job correctly. And then they get some resource or they will check with you. Is this what is okay with you? Is this okay with you? So yes, you got to tell them, okay, now this guy is good. Well, it's not good for me. You will have to tell them. So you will be working on them. Mr. Khan, again, I have shared that list of the templates which is already there. Well, I don't have there's a list of templates I've already shared. A lot of templates are there in the, I've shared that Google in the one of those days. I think I've shared it, but I just want to check. Did I share the various sample templates and all? Yeah, I think so. I have shared it. Please just check with them. Again, that's what we had on the shared pretty much on the documentation part. Now, quick one here. Nobody's going to ask you for the sequence. All you need to know is what they are. So nobody is going to get into the sequence part of it. But again, you should know what they are, and we should not make a blunder here. So first thing first, I'm just going to still go and put that in a certain sequence. But again, you might be falling in a different sequence, which is okay. And nobody cares because it varies from company to company. But typically, how it works, well, I'm just going to talk about this. I'm going to put a number sequence here. Statement of work is high-level description of work. So which is high-level description, which the company wants, say, like some sort of requirement to be done. High-level requirement are given here in SOW. So high-level requirement is what is shared. This is shared by what? Whom? The company. The company will share high-level requirement. This is going to be required by the company. Now, first, so let's call this 1. With this high-level requirement, you will be sharing it with 1. Invitation for bid. So the company's procurement department will send this requirement to the high-level requirement to say, I'm hypothetically putting this as just like a number. They have 20 such vendors. For these requirements, they have a list of such 20 vendors in the market who do that kind of job. So they send this invitation for bid to company. This invitation for bid to such 20 such vendors. These 20 vendors receive IFB, invitation for bid, and they have SOW. So the bid will go along with this SOW. Where the company is beneficiary and the bidders are service provider. Company is the beneficiary? Yeah, absolutely. Yes. Yes, Mr. Faiz. So the company is the one who is requesting for this. So the company will share this information that I need this to be done, and whosoever is interested can submit, can show the interest. So invitation for bid is shared by the company. Say 20 vendors got this information. Not everyone is interested. When they get to see somebody say, no, it's not something I want to work with. Say some sort of denied and say did not respond at all. Say out of this 20, 15 are interested to do the job. That becomes rule point number 2, which is expression of interest. They 15 responded to the company. So this is done by the vendor. The vendor is the one who responds that yes, we have received your invitation of bid. We have seen your SOW and we are interested to do the job. So 15, this is the company the vendors will share with the company that I am interested to do it. The company receives this. Now company knows these 15 vendors have shown the interest, 5 have not shown the interest, forget about them. Now these 15 vendors will now receive point number 3, request for quotation. Remember this one, only cost and nothing else. Request for quotation will only have cost in it. So we'll ask these 15 vendors, the company will send it RFQ, which is okay. So you know the high level requirement we have. How much will you charge? Only cost. I don't want anything else, only cost. So give me only cost, which is asked by the company. The company will ask these 15 vendors, well, since you have shown the interest, tell me how much money will you charge? Different people will share their interest based on what is the charge and what is. So now the 15 people respond for that. Now when the 15 people will respond, some prices will be they're out of my budget. The moment I get the RFQ, I said these guys are too out of it. So hypothetically, out of 15, 5 are exorbitantly very, very high, and it's out of a budget. No point in discussing. So company would do the filtration there, and we have got 10 vendors who are making logical sense. So those 10 vendors will receive RFI. This is my point number 4. Request for information. Now the company sends it to those 10 people that, okay, we have received your quotation and we want you to share additional details. And what these additional details are? Now I want to know more detail about this vendor. Well, have they done a similar job in the past? Who's the basically the company's net worth? Any references they have done? Well, basically, because wherever they have done the job, so are they ready to share the references, the contact details, and the companies basically where they have debt outstanding or not? If there is basically the historical, basically the portfolio review. So basically, I want to know about the company, how big the company is, how small or how long they have been into the business. Or it should not be like the company which is started like last month or probably 2 months ago. No, I don't want that kind of thing. So I want to understand the company's financial capability. Will they be able to sustain the job? So RFI will be required from those 10 people. So this company will respond. This RFI is sent to 10 people to respond. Now these 10 people respond for that. Now
I have a question, sir.
Yes.
Since RFI request, you say you want to know about their profile, but they are already approved vendor with you, so you should know a lot of them, a lot of information about them. If they are already approved
external
vendor.
We've gone part this would not even come into pick. This is already the ones we're talking about, the vendors which we have already if they have said no, I'm reaching out to external vendors and getting it from them.
Okay, my bad. Thank you.
The outside is one which have not been with us. So the 10 people, now this I would get it from them. So hypothetically, I'm just putting a vague number here. Say if the company, when they got the information, they sort of rejected instantly 5 out of them. Why? Because say out of the 5 which were good as per them and 5 which were bad. Why? Because out of them 2 have never done a job in our kind of industry, never done a job. One had a bad experience with a previous project got failed, and because some issues or dispute has happened, so company declined it. And say 2 were just recently started, so that they don't have experience. So 5 vendors who have qualified our criteria, now they will be sent we will ask them to come for something called bidder conference. Here bidder conference will happen. So we'll ask these 5 vendors to come for bidder conference to have a detailed, for the first time we will have a face-to-face or probably even nowadays you have it virtual mode also. We will have a discussion. So it's the first time we will be sharing in-depth understanding of what that requirement is. They will also be having cross questioning done. So the purpose of having a bidder conference is to make sure there is a transparency done. It should not happen that, I favored one of my favorite vendor or this guy is one of my relative. So bidder conference is meant to make sure nobody gets any information before or after. Everyone gets a common standard information at one go. So this is the one thing, the first time we are facing each other. We are all vendors get equal opportunity to understand, to ask questions, to counter question and everything. And we will be asking our question. They will be asking the question. Everyone gets the knowledge about what needs to be done. And based on that understanding, they will be required to submit RFP, request for proposal. And that is a detailed thing from the beginning itself, which is every single detail about how will you handle, including the cost, including everything, what they will be covering, what they will not be covering, the RF, basically the scope of their scope and out of scope, absolute in detail, a complete end-to-end proposal, which is what will be shared. And now from there, we will be shortlisting some vendors. And for them, with those vendors, I will sign MOU, Memorandum of Understanding, which is not a legal document right now. Well, because we don't need them right now. When we need them, we'll sign the contract. So while we have agreed, right now, we have agreed that our terms and the money-wise, the role-wise, we have understood each other's job. You know what you have to do. I know how much I have to pay. Basically, the understanding has been developed. So we at least get it documented. So our both understandings are clear. Now, that's not a legal document. You can still back out from MOU. But when the work is going on and their job is required, then we get into legal contract. And when you get into contract, now there's a legal binding for that. So contract will come into picture after MOU. When do you issue contract? When the work is supposed to be done. Well, and only onboard resources when I need them. At least these people have been identified. Agreement has been done. MOU has been signed, but that's still not a legal document. Legal document is when it becomes a contract, when you onboard them, that's a formal document. But again, MOU will be more of a common understanding has been developed that what we need and what you will be doing. So common understanding has been developed after that. But that's pretty much on the list here. Now, quickly, let me just go back and look at this exact questions here. Well, in the past, in RFIs were not about the company's credential, but now more about the methodology. Everything is there. I will just quickly show it. See, again, we might see the variation specifies. Again, you will see everything in an RFI. There's now everything covered in the RFI. Everything. Procurement department request document submittal, technical submittal, and Mr. Khan, again, see, we talk about it will, the concepts will, again, we're not talking about the what is the sequence. In general, that's the sequence. But again, you might see variation, which is absolutely fine. Conceptually, you should know what document is meant for what purpose here. That's all what we need here. Is it required to do SOW? SOW is high level. It doesn't have the detail, just high level information. And that's why we wait to have the bidder conference where the details are discussed. High level requirement, I will still be sharing because without that, how will somebody respond? SOW is always shared. Will the identity of bidders be exposed to everyone? No, they are like, see, the common bidders. Well, technically, when they're having a bidding process, they're having the they all it's an open platform. So it's okay. People, we're not having a bidding done, but yes, we know the identity, who are the vendors and we are competing with. We don't have a role, Diana. We don't have a role here. We don't have a role at all. Is the information flow sequence of the, this again, Mr. Yusuf, again, the information is not like the flow is what we talked about. In general, that's what we see. But again, there will be variation, which is as per the company. So again, nobody is going to get into the flow of the sequence here. It's just about knowing what it is. MOU is to agree about the handover. Basically, more about like basically whatever we have agreed before the legal, before you actually give a legal name, that will be MOU. Everything has been what is there in MOU will go into contract. That's before, like it's saying that we both have a common understanding developed about work, about the pricing, about everything, quality metrics, everything has been agreed upon. But just that I don't need the work right now. I'll let you know the moment we will execute the contract with your work will get started. So it's just more of a common understanding developed there. Scope of work is not required to be shared. Scope, while we talk about scope, will come into picture when you get the contract part in. Here, we just talk about the requirements there. We don't get into the details of like acceptance criteria. No. We will be more about the role, what job needs to be done. High level requirement is discussed. Then you go in detail, but I don't go at like a deliverable level. No, you don't discuss with them unless you get them on contract. High level requirements will be like basically discussion. Their questions can be answered, but again, you don't go at deliverable level activities. That will be done only when you have done the job of kind of onboarding them. Conceptually, are we clear about those name of the term, like the terminologies and what they're meant for? What's the purpose of the term, the terminologies? Okay, let's then talk about this one. So will be issued and discussed during the RFP stage, will be issued and discussed. RFP stage, yes, will be like when you do the bidder conference, they have got the clarity and according to which they will be writing this proposal and submitting it. Post, that's why, look at this. Your organization will be like wherever this process has to be very transparent because we don't want anyone to be getting unfair advantage here. So specifically in all the highly regulated industry or government stuff, because you have to make sure everyone gets a fair, equal chance. So, well, you will be required to have the RFPs, the bidder conferences, which where you want to make sure that every prospective bidder has a clear and common understanding.
Excuse me, sir.
Yeah.
Actually, for this, the bidder, I was asking for the scope of work. So if you're not sharing the exact scope of work with the vendor, how he will quote? The exact quote he will not be able to quote. No?
The bidder conference is to discuss all of that. We don't get deliverable level. We don't go at deliverable level, but we'll be just definitely talk about what needs to be done. Understand that bidder conference is for having on because SOW you have got is high level. But at the bidder conferences stage, when you have those vendors based on the RFIs, during this bidder conference, they will be asking questions because you have just showed SOW, which is high level requirement. But at this stage, the reason of having bidder conferences, we can give them the clarity. They can have the bit of question answer, but we don't go at the level of because you have done the project scope statement created, like you've done broken down at the WBS level. You don't go at deliverable level, but you can talk about high level requirement here. The requirements will be discussed. You don't go at WBS level. Deliverable, you will not go and sit down and discuss with these guys at this stage. But again, you will talk about requirements, and all the questions they have related to requirement will be kind of, you can set the expectation right. So this bidder conference is more for getting the clarity on both the parties. So you will share our bit of requirements, because SOW was high level. I will give you more details, but will not go at the, well, again, I would say never, but you might, based on the discussion, how detailed they want, because they can continue asking for more details, and you can give it. So you will go at detail, all in all, based on which they will be submitting the proposal also.
So can we re-quote after submitting, after
RFP will be
the
different.
bidder conference?
It will be different. 100% different. It will be different.
Okay.
Because initially I might have given you high level because you gave me a high level picture. But now things have got clear. And then we'll be having a discussion. Things will change. The purpose of your RFP, like the bidder conference, is just to make sure everyone gets to the common page here. And yes, we want to have a fair, neutral, like award. We want to award this contract to somebody with a fair, neutral process. Nobody should be given a fair advantage here. So yes, everyone gets it's a common platform where everyone can ask questions, get their questions answered, and we will be asking questions, more detailed questions, and they will be asking there. So bottom line, it just helps people to get a common understanding, and then you submit your RFPs.
Excuse me?
Yeah.
You are trying to explain the RFQ before the RFP stage. And the vendors, they are submitting their quotations based on their understanding, reference to the scope of statement.
SOW, as the statement of work.
Statement of work, sorry. Statement of work.
Yeah.
Okay. So accordingly, some vendors will be eliminated from the equation.
Yeah, so see, it's quite possible to see some more filtration done. See, again, the sequence can be more like, or that's what I'm saying. Your sequence might be different in different scenarios. People can customize, but all in all, see, initially you have your SOW. Based on SOW, people will, like, we go for invitation for bid, IFB.
I think it is not fair. I think it's not fair to let them quote before because you will eliminate some vendors, while the full picture is not clear for them. So the pricing methodologies maybe will be changed with them also. So disqualifying them based on a price during the RFQ stage will be not fair.
Sorry, so you're talking about like fitting them in here? Would not be fair?
Such filtration will done here during the RFQ stage. Am I right? So you will disqualify some vendors based on their prices.
Yeah, you can, like, so you want to bring it here. See, again, the sequence, that's what I'm saying. The sequence is something which you will see a variation. Again, going back to the same thing, sequence, we may be practicing it differently in different companies. You might want to include, you may not be doing some of these activities. You may directly be asking for the RFQ. People may be submitting just simply, when I say RFQ, people in request for quotation, people also include the proposal. Have you seen? I'm not sure.
Actually, yes. We are in our industry. We are collocating between the RFP and RFQ together.
Yes.
So based on the RFP stage, they will submit their RFQ as well.
So again, that's what I'm saying. The ground level reality could be very different, but RFQ is meant only for quotation, which is amount only. But again, bottom line, how we practice it and how we do it, and trust, it will vary from company to company. It will vary. So it's okay. Well, see. It all depends on the company's culture, how we sequencing them, and the sequencing doesn't matter here. It's more about the concept which is related with it. If we understand what is it meant for. So we just got to definitely keep in mind, RFQ is for quotation only money. But when you talk about proposal, it's about details of everything. And that will also include quotation later.
Sir, but one thing is that after listening to the scope of work on the bidder conference, many vendors may back out also. Then again, we have to start the process again. Don't you think that is again time consuming rather than giving a scope of work at the initial stage and getting a quotation?
We will not be disclosing that level of detail to the vendors who have not been shortlisted. Honestly, like, it's like too much of information that disclosed to people in very early stage will something which the company will not be comfortable doing. That's why. Maybe
if we have taken our one or two vendors we have selected. If the vendor sees extra scope of work and they say, no, sir, we are not familiar, we are not going to do with this. We are not comfortable doing this scope of work also. So we will back out. So in this case, again, then we have to go for another vendor, right?
Yeah, given a scenario, yes, you might. Well, again, that's the job of the project. Again, going back to that's the job of the procurement team to handle it. How they do it. Again, it's pretty much the sequencing. Again, going back to the sequencing part, it may vary, and it may vary from based on what kind of contract, what kind of vendors you have got, and that will sort of vary how you want to sequence them. So again, sequencing, you will see a lot of variation with these companies. You might see people customizing it as per their needs. So not, again, that's what I said in the beginning. This is not about sequence. It's about knowing what it is.
Okay, sir. Okay.
Right.
I think the privacy is the main factor here. Am I right?
I'm sorry?
Do not share the privacy. It is the main factor here. Do not share the information since beginning.
Yeah, we don't. The company is reluctant to share all the information in the beginning.
Based on policies, yes.
They don't want to.
And nature of a project.
Yeah.
As well.
It's just basic. So they just want to have that pool of people share their details. And again, when we have found the right set of people, then we want to have a discussion with them. We don't want to divulge too much information going to the market, and agree. Competition gets to know also.
Clear and agree.
The specific use of RFP and RFQs can vary. Yeah, it will vary. Absolutely, Mr. Hassan. So it varies from country to company. It's not something which I can say. I have seen at least 5 different versions. So I don't. That's why I always keep commenting. I've seen companies practicing. At least I've personally seen 5 different practices in different companies wherever we did carry out projects, and they were different. And first time it was difficult for us to adjust and digest their method. But we agreed because in the end, practically got to work as per the company policy. You step into another company, you have that mindset. Again, you have to adjust. Why? Because this company has a different process. So we had to adjust multiple times, and it worked. So then we realized, but bottom line, you can't do much about it because company will not change their policy because you are, as a consultant, when you go from outside, we have to follow what the company policy says. They will not change their policies because of a consultant. So we have seen at least I know for sure I've seen 5 different versions of that, and you can see any. So that's why I said, like, when you do RFQ, you would be sending proposal, and yes, I've seen that, and which is what it's okay. In real world practice, it's absolutely okay. For us, from an exam perspective, you should know what it is meant for. What is RFI? What is RFQ? What is RFP? And all that. Conceptually, we should know what is it. Nobody's going to talk about the sequence there. Sequence is not required. It's what is it meant for is what we need to see. What we look for in the request for the source selection criteria, the information that we will be asking for from the vendor, the RFI we're talking about. Basically, how do you decide which vendor to select, which vendor not to select? RFI part, basically the information I want to capture about a vendor, which is where we talk about source selection criteria. The total cost, basically, which might have already come from the RFQ. Do they have understanding of the need, their technical capability of handling this particular requirement, the management approach, basically, if you get to know about their management details, the technical approach, have they done it before, like some sort of work in the past and how they've handled it, warranties, what they're covering for this, whatever the job they do, their financial capacity. Well, it should not just shut down in a couple of months. Well, you need to understand, well, their capacity, how big the company is, and practically the interest in this. Well, depending, I'm not sure why they what they refer with the interest here, but basically the production capacity and pretty much how much, I'm not sure able to relate what is the role of interest, but yes, definitely the production capacity, the volume they can deliver, the business size and the type, the past performance of the sellers, basically, which they can give us references. Same thing as I mentioned as references. So can they give us references where we can verify the information? Intellectual property rights are very important to keep in mind. Well, people who are professionals, we own intellectual property rights, like these recordings, when we're having these sessions recorded. I have given my intellectual property rights, we call it IPR. I have given it to IMC. Well, now you can use these recordings the way you want. But I don't, whenever I do these trainings for corporates, I don't give IPR. I don't allow. Bottom line, it's your contract, your agreement with them, with the vendor. Well, you decide whether you're going to let go, because when you leave your intellectual property right, then you giving them the authority to use it as per their discretion. And you will not hold them accountable. You will not hold them you'll not go and claim anything there. But when I deal with the corporates, they ask for recording. I say, okay, well, there will be a separate charge for that. We will get the training done, but there will be separate charge for getting you the recording. Well, because I have to, if you want me to release my IPR, I'll have to go and charge you for that money also. Bottom line, we have to understand whether this guy who's going to do the job, say somebody we got to do the job of designing and developing a software. Now we are selling this software in the market. We don't want this guy to come back and put a legal claim that I designed this software and now I need some money. I'm also a stakeholder. I should be given profit out of this sale. So that's what IPR, we need to understand whether this person is ready to let go IPR and or to be any other rights or claims they have on this. Whatever the job they will do, they cannot go and make any legal claim that it belongs to me in the future. That's what is IPR part. Here, procurement requests to the vendors to critical technical documents submittals. Yeah, basically, when we want the people to understand, when we want people to go and submit I need to have their information. I need to have full and complete information here. So we need to understand whether these vendors will be competent enough to be handling this job or not. So we will be going and looking into all those. And this is not a comprehensive list. You might see a different company will have an even more exhaustive list, which is okay. It's just more of an idea what all things are collected, and you can collect more things if you comes to your mind. All in all, it tells you what these things are to ensure, well, before we onboard somebody, I need to have a picture about basically the clarity about them. And that's what we'll look into source selection criteria. But basically how strong or how weak is the vendor. Is it okay with everyone? Quick check here. Is it fine? General query. I guess, yeah, next one is here. Qualified vendors. While we have the one we already talked about, the qualified vendors are the ones who are pre-approved vendors. They are always preferred. Why? Because they have shown the history, their work was satisfactory, and that's why there's still a list of pre-approved vendor. And unless they stop doing a good job and they are removed from that list, they will always be the preferred ones. They'll always be checked first whether can you deliver this. And yes, it's much more hassle-free. Why? Because their accounts are set up. It's it's a big pain to set up the account with a lot of paperwork, and nobody likes it. Neither vendors like it, nor the company likes it. So if you have an account set up with a vendor, they would always want, because this is a very big pain. I do remember one of the company had so much of documentation to be done. I felt like I should give it up, because the time I invested and trust it, I told them, I'm going to bill you for this. The kind of paperwork you have got me to do, I have spent almost nothing less than 7 or 8 hours to do your paperwork, just to sign up and get you on the board, because this 7-8 hours of work that I've done for doing your paperwork to get you on the board, I'm going to bill you for this. Because I'm going to be charging for my training hours. I will add on the 7 or 8 hours billable on that, because on top of it, because you are charging me, you are making me do this stupid stuff. And practically, there was too much of paperwork. The company had a lot of policies and procedures. And I said, I'm not liable to do that. But again, practically we end up doing it. And if they really need the job to be done, they'll have to pay for it. And it all depends on how strong your arguments are. But again, this is a very painful activity. I know for sure, because spending 7-8 hours doing paperwork is a big pain. And trust, this because I don't have a team. I'm a single guy. I don't have an accounts guy who knows. So I'm going to do everything on my own, which is where it's very painful. So it's good for everyone on both the parties. If you have already a person whose accounts are set up, we'll always work with them. And that's basically a qualified vendors list. Now, that's what we're talking about. So here, let me kind of just go back and put this list back again. Determination of need, SOW. And along with this, we will request. So we'll send IFB invitation for bid. Again, please don't go with the sequence. I'm just trying to go and put this message, like trying to bind things again. RFQ quotation. We'll request for, we have the invitation with, they will have expression of interest, EOI, request for quotation, request for information. You have then you have proposal, which here we can look for. In between, we have a bidder conference. We have the proposal is RFQ, RFP. We have MOU signed here. And then you have contracts. The contracts will come into picture here. When you onboard these people, now they have the money game starts here. So till that, it's just about selection and agreement has been achieved here. Like, so the moment work will be required, I will be issuing you the contract. So that's what we will be looking at. And how you do it, look at this. In answer to all your questions, it can be tailored. We'll see variations. Well, bottom line, you work and it will vary from company to company. You will customize, you'll see variations. You keep switching company, your own version will change so many times. So while it doesn't matter what the sequence is different. Yes, I'm sure it will absolutely mystify. It's absolutely okay. Sequence doesn't matter here, at least from exam perspective. Knowing what that term is, it's more important because sequence will change. And trust mystifies in Saudi itself, you will see variations also. Trust, if you go through, you will see variations. It's okay. LOI is also there, yes. So it's okay. It's absolutely okay. We just need to know what they are. We'll be getting into, I guess that is what we will end up spending time in. The last piece for today, which is about the contracts. And we'll be most likely given the time, we can finish the contracts for today and we'll be done for today. And there are many. So we'll end up taking a lot of the entire time here. Let's try to please understand quick 1 or 2 liner meanings of each types of contract. So we'll first go through just the predictive contracts and then we'll go through agile ones. Let's start with the first one here. Now, whenever you see the contracts, you will have to keep this section in mind in terms of I have been saying don't memorize anything. This one you got to memorize for sure. What do you have to memorize here? The name of when you talk about here. When you talk about the name part of it, let's say here we have. So we have, whenever you see this terms, like, so you have to memorize this part, the abbreviation and the full name. So you have to keep in mind. So question might just simply say CPFF, or question might give a complete version. So you have to keep this abbreviation and this thing in mind. That's how to interpret these things. Let's look into that. So whenever the contract starts with C, first thing starts with C. What does it mean? That a vendor has to pay from his or her own pocket. So whatever expenses are happening, like labor costs, material costs, vendor will pay from his or her own pocket, and then will submit the invoices, and will get when the invoices submitted, the vendor will get the money back. So what is the way of getting the money back? Well, the company could have decided different criteria. It could be like every week we are doing the settlement. So vendor keeps paying everything from the pocket, and every week he or she would submit the invoices and will get the money back. So no, this is not earning, right? So I paid from my pocket, I got the money back. I paid from my pocket, I got money. That's not earning. That's not income. That's not profit. So so it could be weekly, it could be 15 days. That could be criteria, or it could be amount based. So like when your invoice amount exceeds $10,000, then you can raise the invoice and we will pay you back. So that kind of contract. So whatever it may be, doesn't matter. But it's in this case, whenever you start with C, what it means that the vendor has to pay for all the material costs, labor costs, everything from his or her own pocket first, and then submit the invoices and recover the money. But that's not earning. Earning is not. So whenever it starts with C, it will be reimbursement. Reimbursement has to happen. That's the first thing to keep in mind. Rest part is earning. PFF, the FF part is earning. IF is earning and AF is earning. Earning, profit, what do we call this? Now let's talk about what is this. P is plus in all the cases. So FF, let's talk about FF. It's his fixed fee. So what happens in a CPFF? Bottom line, you're trying to do a construction of a house. This house was supposed to be constructed, and if we have gone into a CPFF model, so oh goodness, I made a very amazing house now. Okay, so this house was supposed to be built. So we had a CPF model. So the vendor is paying from his own pocket, getting all the raw material, the vendor fee, and every payments is doing, and he's getting this money paid. Like the money is being reimbursed to him every week. So that's what is going on. But we have already decided in the beginning, for this house, we will pay you for the construction, your fee, the professional fee, the profit you will be earning is $50,000. That's it. That's agreed. And that's it, fixing. So whether there is no extra commission that you will be getting or extra money you will be getting if you, and this was up, the plan was that you will deliver this house in 6 months. Now, if you deliver this house in 5 months, you don't get any extra penny, not even extra single penny. Well, there's no excitement for this guy left. Why? There's a fixed money I will be getting, this guy knows, because this is the house I need to deliver and I have to 6 months time. So I'll get this job done in 6 months. Even if I do it in 5 months or 4 months, I am not going to get even extra money, no extra money. So this is fixed profit I will be earning in this case. And whatever I keep spending, I'll keep getting the money back. So that is zero. Technically, there's no earning. So the only earning I'll get for this building this house is 50,000. That's my pure profit. Now, this can only change if you ask me something extra. For this house, we have agreed for 50,000. Like, while the work is going on, you say, okay, can you also build, I forgot, can you also build a garage for me where I'll park my car, a small garage here? Well, yes, for that, I will require extra money. Obviously, that's not planned. Let me do the calculation. Okay, I'll require 5,000 for this garage. Okay, perfect. No problem. We can do that. So now it will become 55. So it's a fixed amount, which is agreed upon. So you spend the money, get it reimbursed, and there's a fixed money. That's one way of getting the job done. Second one is again the same thing. So cost remains the same. Now this IF is what? Incentive fee. Now incentive fee here will be completely based on performance. Nothing called fixed. This is high risk gain. Why? Because it's like a sales kind of job. Well, you have a sales target and everything is variable pay, 100% variable pay. And I will be as I keep doing the job, like if my performance is great, who will get into this kind of contract? The companies which have absolutely amazing track record of doing the job in lesser time with great quality. They've got good name in the market and they know that if I go with a fixed fee model, well, I'm not going to make good money. And this is like high risk, high gain. Yes, but they have good confidence, amazing team, great job. So they have always been getting the maximum benefit because they have been doing the job way too early and there is incentive fee. So there could be a slab, which could be some sort of slab for cost, which could be slab for quality, or for slab for time. For example, there's a slab which says, so if you finish this project in say 170 days and 180 days, you will get like let's say 5% of the total project cost as your incentive fee. No fixed, that's a fixed 5% of the total project cost. If you do it within 160 and 170 days, you will get say 15%, which is great. If you do it in say 150 and 160 days, you get say 20%. You do it in 140 to 150 days, well, you get say 25%, something like that. So something like that. So it is promoting and motivating this vendor to do an exceptional job, do it fast, put more people, and just hit the maximum value. So it's in the best interest of the vendor to get the job done, and the vendor and the company also gets benefit. The sponsor again benefits in getting the work done early. Similarly, they can be for cost also, some sort of performance scale, quality. It's purely based on performance, and there's nothing called fixed here. So you will be getting a benefit here if you obviously get the job done sooner. It's incentive. So companies who have great track record will commit for this because it's completely variable pay. But they know, well, only the people who don't know how to do the job, they will go for this is like a very balanced approach model, risk-free model, and they will get like a bare amount, like you will be just able to make a money. But here you will if you've done a great job, you will just make an unbelievable money, which is that's what they will go for. Such companies are there. Having said that, last one is weird one, and that also happens. So I keep spending money from my pocket, can keep getting the money back. This award fee concept is very amazing, and there are companies like this. Here what happens that the company says like the vendor will do the job. When the vendor completes the job, the sponsor will audit it, and then sponsor will decide whether sponsor is happy, satisfactory, like whatever it is. Well, sponsor says, well, I'm too excited about this. You've done an amazing job. Well, I think I should give you $50,000. Okay, congratulations. Sponsor says, no, I did not like your work. I'll give you only $5,000. I can't challenge this. This money which is going to be given, it's an award. An award is not subject to appeal. So you will not be able to challenge. The sponsor says, I will not pay you anything. You can't. I did not like your work and I don't feel like paying you. It is, as per this contract, it is completely the discretion of the company or here to pay you. If they like your work, they will pay you. If they're not, well, they're not even subject to appeal. You can't challenge them also. You can't discuss, you can't argue with them. You will just have to agree what they say. Well, do you know why would people get into this kind of contract? 2 reasons. A, which is common. I'm not getting work for quite a long time and I'm desperate to get at least some because I've got people, at least I need to get some work. So I've not been getting work. I'll end up committing at least to get some, otherwise I'll be out of market. So I will end up committing for such a contract where I know for sure, let me do the job, let me get the people. Otherwise I'll have to shut down my business. That could be a reason why I might agree with this. Or I've just launched myself, new company, and wants to do a business and get a name in the market, will do this, get into contract with a very big company and just a brand name. I need the brand name. That's it. I want to go now use that brand name to sell and get more business. So I will end up in a contract like this. So there is a company here. Well, there's a company called LNT, Larsen and Toubro, I guess something like LNT, which is a pretty big name globally. And this company has a lot of such vendors, small vendors who have agreed with this kind of contract. Why? Because they're going to, they know for it they will pay, but they may not always, like who wants to pay more technically? So they know for this model, I will get less, but I will agree because I'm new, nobody knows me. But now the moment I have LNT as my client, my portfolio will show LNT as my client, and that will give me the brand value. That's what I want. So the companies will work on these kind of things. Well, when you are in like dire need, or when you want to kind of showcase that as a brand value sort of thing. Now, quick one here. Sometimes in which category lump sum contract will fit in? The more will come. Lump sum is the first one. Tushar, the lump sum is the first one. Fixed fee, right? Fixed fee is the first one. 50,000 means 50,000. I'll pay you 50,000, get the job done. Is it clear? First one is the fixed fee. Second one is the incentive one. Third one is, well, go. They decide if they are happy, they will pay you. They're not happy, don't pay you. Hence, not end. They are like more agile. These are predictive ones, and they will be more predictive coming in. Let's look at the next slide. So please remember, these are all CCC. That means you pay first as a vendor, get the money recovered. That's not earning. Earning is the fixed fee, incentive, and the award fee. Let's talk about the next one, which doesn't have the, this is better. This is better than the previous one. This is the lump sum one you're talking about. Here, the company, the vendor is not paying anything from the pocket. No game of reimbursement. So vendor is supposed to get the job done. So the responsibility to provide the material, pay the wages of the vendors and all that, like the salary of the laborers and all that. Not my job. I'll not pay anything from my pocket. My fee for getting this house, this construction done is whatever this construction is going to happen. My fee is 50,000. Simple as that. Well, everything, raw material, vendor, procure, that job, all the payments have to be done by the company, by the sponsor itself. The vendor pays nothing from the pocket, and there is a fixed lump sum fee. This is what will be charged. And yes, you get extra money. If I ask for the extra garage, then you ask me, okay, there's 5,000 extra for. So this is simply the professional fee we are charging here. That's my pure profit, and I'm not paying anything. So much better. What's the fun of just first spending from your pocket, getting the money back? Well, practically much better. At least you're not paying from your pocket. This is 100% the same one, previous one. This is based on incentive fee. In the previous one, you were investing from your pocket, getting the money back. Here, you're not doing it, and you simply have incentive base. Same thing, but without paying for, like, that recovery mode is not there. You don't like pay from your pocket, don't get the reimbursement. So no reimbursement and same incentive slab. The incentive slab will be based on time, cost, quality, whatever, performance. And this one, the fixed fee with economic price adjustment, comes into picture whenever there are foreign payments. Whenever there are foreign payments involved, you will look at this kind of model, which will help you to ensure that no party gets impacted, because there could be dollar value fluctuation. There could be some this oil price here and there, and probably as some war happens, a lot of global disruption happens. So because of the global disruption, so when there are foreign payments involved, say one party is in one country, another party is in another country, and while we agree, there was some agreement established, but because of the global dynamic change, the prices have the value of either party has the currency has either depreciated or appreciated. That will impact one, another, another will get benefited. With this model, what they say that we'll bring it back to even whatever was the initial document, like agreement. So if, like, say, for example, today we look at Indian currency, if I'm just going to talk about Indian currency. So if we have to spend, like, hypothetically, 85 Indian rupees, and if I spend 85 Indian rupees, I will get, it's equal to, say, 1 USD. So if we have agreed as of today, this is what I will end up like. So if my client is supposed to pay me, say, 100 USD as of today for some project, I'm supposed to get 8,500 Indian currency. That's what is agreed upon, and I should be getting this. So in the end, my customer should not be penalized, should not be paying more than 100 USD, and I should not be getting more than 8,500. So if there's a global disruption which happens, we will try to go and adjust and bring it back to this same equation by adjusting whichever the global, whatever disruption happened, we'll go back to the original pricing model. So it will adjust and save, fail safe. Yeah, does it fall under force majeure? Yeah, it can be. Like, so it's more about, see, when you talk about anything which will be, you may put it in the, yeah, so it's more of a contract condition that you're putting in. You're right about that. You can be added in there because it's based on, because that's beyond your control. Absolutely. When you talk about something which is to deal with the nature, but again, is something which you do not have a control on, is what we can put it there. I am not sure whether this will fall. It's more about the legal team to decide whether it will fall into a force majeure or not. Like Mr. Hassan mentioned that, no, it's all about nature. So it's more about whatever the legal contract team kind of looks into it, whether it falls into force majeure or not. Bottom line, it's beyond it is just only going to be involved if your foreign payments involved. That's only. So if I'm in UAE and my payments are also happening in UAE, the vendor is in UAE, I'm in UAE, this clause will not apply. But if I'm in UAE and my client is in US, I will definitely have this clause incorporated, so nobody gets impacted here. So we'll be going away with like journal. So it doesn't matter here in that case. Quick one. Is it easy? Is it okay with everyone? Okay. All right. Let's pick up the last one. And if anyone can explain me the last one, because this is the evergreen model, oldest way of handling projects. And that's what we'll end. We'll not get into Agile. Agile has one page, but it's complete full page. This is the oldest way, the traditional way of project management. Traditional way of project. This is also called TNM. Anyone wants to please pitch in, because this is what everyone would have seen at some point in time. TNM, or time and material contract. Oldest. Now, I won't say end-to-end contract, but this is like time and expense based on actual usage. Okay, this is primarily when do we use the TNM kind of contract here? Okay, let's try to kind of give a quick example here. Here, what I will be doing, we generally refer this as staff augmentation. When you talk about staff augmentation, so this there's a vendor, and this is how traditional people have been working with. So there's a sort of a rate card like this. When this person wants to get a house design like done, so I would go and tell this guy, you need like these people. So you need, say, 10 laborers. Okay. You need, say, 5 masons, 1 painter, and so on and so forth, like so. And I will charge for a mason per day like 100 USD. Say I will charge 100 USD for this. I will charge for mason, say, 300 USDs for this. And I'll charge, say, another 300 USD for each mason. Each painter 300 USD. I'll charge 500. Well, this is my rate card. So you want the house to be designed, developed, and whatever do. Well, pretty much, ask what you want. So you need 10 people. Well, so the rate per person is 100 for this. So, well, you tell me how many labor do you need? I'll provide you the labors. You need, it's more of my rate card here. So I'm going to provide, well, this is what we'll talk about, augmentation of staff. So we acquire experts. Well, we have more of a rate card here. And you say, okay, you need people, I'll provide you people. And you tell me how many people do you need? So I will provide you. This is what I pay to them. It's none of your business. The bottom line, you tell me what do you want, and I'll provide you. This is my rate card, and you can look at the rate card and decide what do you want. And practically, I'll supply those. These people will be working on your site and doing the job, and you don't have to pay them. You have to pay me as per the rate card. And where what I pay to them actually is none of your business. I may be paying them nothing. That's none of your business. So contract is between me and you. Well, yes, mandate charges. This is what we use for our staff augmentation. Wherever we talk about outsourcing kind of thing, it's pay as you go. Absolutely, that kind of model. So here it's more the traditional way. Basically, I'm going to provide you resources. I'm going to provide you resources. I'll bill you for resource. I have a rate card, and this is what you will. So you do with the construction kind of thing. So I have a rate card. You tell me how many people do you need. Get the people. I will give you those people. My rate card. Well, it's the contract is going to happen between me and me. So if you are not happy with one of the labor there, you don't have. So you just got to tell me. I'll give you the replacement. I will give you replacement. So one of the person does not come. Well, it's none of your problem. It's my problem. I will bear the penalty for that. So bottom line, the contract is with. So I'm providing you the resources required, and you paying me for resources. So basically, it's generally we use for staff augmentation. Nowadays, all this outsourcing work, company work on this one. The concept of outsourcing is all based on this T&M stuff. So you sort of give sort of kind of it works fine because across the globe, whenever we talk about T&M, in Agile also we use T&M. Agile also there is a contract which is based on time and material. This is the last one you will see there also. Because there also, well, my rate card will not have a labor. My rate card would have a designer, developer, tester. Well, that's the price to like a designer with 5 years experience, a designer with 3 year experience, a designer which is fresher. Well, you will have a rate card and you choose, and like it's like a buffet meal, and you create your own meal out of that. So you decide what do you want. So that is going to be the kind of contract we'll get in. So Agile will just park it for tomorrow because look at this. There's all Agile contracts. And the last one we start team augmentation. This is the one we're talking about. The team augmentation part is the T&M kind of. And you have another T&M here also, which is graduate team. This is something else we'll talk about. Graduate. So we can talk about this later. Who decides the contractor? The legal team only. Legal team. We should know what these contract types are. High level, at least we should know. Rest will be handled by legal team. We don't get into any of these. Is it okay with everyone? So we'll leave it here. Like we'll start from 93, slide number 93 tomorrow. Is that okay with everyone? Quick check. All right, perfect. So I guess that will be all for today. And let's connect tomorrow and take it up from here. Thank you, everyone. Procurement department. Yeah, procurement, legal team, they work closely because legal team will always be there because they will see going forward, there'll be legal disputes also discussed. We'll talk about disputes also, which will be handled by legal team. We'll also come into that. Legal part, we'll have to understand some part. Yeah. All right, then. Thank you. Good night, everyone. And please take care.